to 7 o'clock.
Nothing.
We are live, y'all.
Oh, yeah,
All
what's
right.
up? What's up? I dig that offbeat during that. That's why I chose the music I chose tomorrow. Is that offbeat drum? I dig how they use the hi hat and then they use the bass at the
Yeah.
end. I love that.
No, that
Yeah,
tune is awesome.
Phil.
Yeah, I love that, man. I love
That tune is awesome. It's fucking.
So hello, week
It's got a-
19, podcast 19. Good job.
right.
You guys
Welcome to
handled it all
podcast
yesterday.
19. Isn't that
Last
badass, guys?
The law
19
of
weeks.
vibration today. So
Which, you know what? When you said that, I was like, that's the only part we haven't covered, man.
yeah, that
We've
one,
done-
and I
we've
think
done
that
all
there's
the rest
one
of
more.
it.
Is there one more after it?
One more, right? What else?
We have gender that we haven't discussed
Yeah, we
yet.
haven't done gender yet.
No gender, right? We got to get there.
We did polarity.
Yeah.
We did
polarity.
rhythm.
Yeah.
We did rhythm. We
All
did
is
the
mine.
way. We did the law.
We
of
did
the
cause
way.
and effect. Yep.
We did cause and effect.
Oh wait, we haven't done All Is Mind yet.
Let us know out there in comments if
Have we?
Right?
all is mind.
Or mentalism.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
that's really the main
That's
rule
the-
is all is mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Did we
Yeah,
go
we
over
did
that?
all
Everything is
lines.
mental.
That was
Yep.
kind of the same. Yeah, right?
Everything
Let me
is
see if I can
mental. I
share
think
this
everyone
screen
is.
real
Normal, we
quick.
can still ring it out better.
Um,
right? Yeah,
Everything's
we can still ring it out.
mental. I'm thinking everyone's mental, man. It just.
I mean, really,
Really?
we are.
Right?
I don't
know if there's
I'll
such a
start
thing as
singing the
normal.
song, right? I'll start going to the Monty Python with every sperm is saved. Right? That was a great movie, man. Those guys were
Oh,
were
man.
insane back in the day. They were
It
off the
sucks 'cause
charts.
when I
man.
see my
That was the
Twitter,
life
I
of
was like,
Brian.
well, actually,
What's that?
John Cleese isn't doing too bad, but
Yeah,
what's
there's
his
still
name?
a
Eddie-
few of them still alive. John Cleese is
there's-
still
I know,
alive.
but there's a couple
Ian
of them that are still
Gilliam's
like they
still
seem like they're
alive.
working for that dark side, which entertainment, that's what
Right.
it is. But
And then what's his name? The guy that was in A Fish Called Wanda with John Cleese. I can't think of his name. The only one they lost was that
Jamie
one
Lee
guy.
Curtis.
Yeah, the one with Jamie Lee Curtis. The guy that played because Otto was Mandy Patinkin, but the guy who played what was the other character's name? He was the one that like was trying to kill
Killed
the old
my
lady, and
father.
kill all the dogs.
Yeah.
That was hilarious. And he was,
All right.
he was an animal lover. All right, let's get on topic here, right?
So let's start. Let's
Quiet,
get this
Leo,
started.
get on topic.
And it's going to get interesting because we're going to be in different locations, same locations. We're going to try to make this work. I've got my phone set up so we can hopefully, keep doing this every week.
Right.
And anyway, so
Well, if you have
we're on
you can
the
get a
principle of
signal, right?
vibration.
Mine can, my phone could do the 5G if I were nowhere in the middle of nowhere too.
Yep.
As long as you know what I mean. So you guys should be able to do it with your cell
You gotta
phone.
find you gotta
Right.
find it on the map where you're close to a cell tower, and most of the time, like I have a T-Mobile line and I have a Verizon line, and those should be able to kind of balance each other out.
Right.
So if one
Right? You think so? Yeah,
doesn't
it'll be all
work,
right.
the other one's gonna work, right?
Right.
Theoretically.
Okay.
Theoretically.
Theoretically,
So-
in theory.
They say this is the third law of vibration, so we've done them we haven't done them in
We've
order.
done, yeah.
Nothing rests. Everything moves. Everything vibrates. The principle of vibration states that nothing in the universe is at rest. Everything vibrates. Everything is in motion. Vibration is in everything. From the tiniest molecule to the biggest rock, in physical and biological systems, we find vibration in matter, energy, light, and sound. In physics, vibration is often called oscillation.
Right.
Either a movement back and fro, as in the swing of the pendulum, or random vibrations, are exhibited in the Brownian movement. Right? Yeah. Brownian movement. It can be described by three factors: amplitude, size, the frequency rate, and the phase or timing. So occultists state that the difference in rate and character of vibration determine the different planes of being. Seeing the highest plane as that with the highest rate of vibration. So when we say raise your vibration, that's what we're talking about. You know, get your vibration, get vibrating higher, and you're going to find. And we've seen this in music. You do, like, you have a whole different.
Yep.
I do feel like I jump kind of different.
Timelines? Or
Not timelines, dimensions as I do this, or planes of existence.
Yeah, right.
So principal vibration is. Anyway, let me finish this. Every mental and or emotional state has its own rate of vibration, the knowledge of which could enable a skilled person to influence at will.
Yes.
Remember that last part and don't take advantage of it, because you will get the cause and effect.
Yes.
You know, there will be hell to pay for that, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to be careful when you're messing with. Okay, for example, guys, the Atlanteans messed with the vibration of 3, 6, and 9, and they stopped the motion, perpetual motion of the planet, destroying their civilization by messing with the vibration in the wrong way. So you got to be careful when it comes to vibrations of the natural universe.
Which is kind of what they're doing right now. That vibration, that vibration is what they're putting out in the airwaves, what they're putting in the news, what they're putting on mainstream media, and this is our counter to it. And so every one of us is speaking about, hey, this is not the way. The way is here. That's unnatural. That's made up, like just synthetic bullshit to keep our minds enslaved. This is what we're trying to do is free you from those chains in the mind.
Right.
So you can allow, but people have got to get out of that fear state. But understanding when you vibrate at a higher level, you need to be able to see the truth and accept it and do what you need to do, whatever you feel like you need to do from that point. But it's accepting that truth and not being afraid of it. Like, no, there's no such thing as boogeyman. There's no such thing as bad things happening or bad people.
Right.
Because people put themselves in that dissociative state because of this. This is what most of us do.
Well, it's your reality in your way.
About that. People say, well, there's nothing we can do about it. Politicians are politicians, right? Oh, bad people are bad people. There's nothing we can do about it. No, there is something we can do about it, guys. We don't have to buy into it. That's what Aaron is talking about with putting yourself in that denial state. That's being subjective. You're subjecting and subservient to their will by accepting and allowing them to be that way. Right?
Yeah.
So we have to be careful of our vibration and be mindful of the vibration that others are trying to force on.
Yes. Right. Yep. Well, when you kind of start to understand, which is, I think, why I talk about the mind so often. It really does determine like just everything, and you have the control to change it at any time, right? So even if you can't change someone else, you can understand it enough to know what action you need to take to not engage or get lost in, but understand and be able to maybe do something about, right?
Right. So just so you guys know, we came up with the other day, I was live on Monday, and we came up with, because Michael Tellinger, back in the day, about 7 years ago, he said, I don't stand under anyone, so I hate that word, understand. And we couldn't come up with a vernacular that worked. He would always say, I get that. Well, one of the people in the audience said, understand. Understand. So you don't understand something, you understand that, which means I get it inside. And it's also bringing the whole ideology back to, you have to actually get something to understand it. It has to be in your mind. So I love that. I'm going to use it all the time now. Understand instead of understand.
It's the whole concept. The whole concept of it is standing for something. Okay, so even though you comprehend something, doesn't mean you stand for it.
Right.
Right.
Okay. So whenever you understand, it's like, understand your place, you little fucking maggot.
I
understand. I'll lower my head and do do what you want.
Stand under me, because that's basically what they're asking.
Right.
Do you believe what I'm telling you? I'm forcing my will on you.
They pull down their glasses and they say, "Do you understand?"
Yeah.
Exactly. No, I comprehend your idea. Now, that being said, fuck you. I don't agree with it. But I don't agree with it.
I get what you're saying, and I have to call a bullshit card on that. Right?
Definitely. And I will not underwrite or understand at all.
Right. So yes, I love the understand because that means you actually get it and you agree with
Right.
it. But
Right.
if you don't agree with it, then you don't understand it. You get it. I get what you're saying. That doesn't
Yeah.
mean anything. Yeah, that's just
Right.
I
Well,
heard
and
you.
again, like I think a lot of us don't understand that.
Well,
Understand.
get it
Yeah.
is also I
Comprehend.
grasp it.
Comprehend is actually
understand.
better to use for this.
Comprehend is a better
Are the
vernacular.
vibrations coming from us and us putting in the vibrations that we put out? That is part of comprehension. So
Yes.
somebody can talk to me and have a totally backhanded way of saying it
Right.
and not mean it, right? Like mean to actually be a shithead about it. And then like
Right.
somebody else can say something to me, the same phrase, but with a different tone and different vibration, they mean
Right.
something different.
Right.
Absolutely. You have people that are very passive aggressive. I had a friend of mine who she would always say, I'll let you do this. And I would look
Yeah.
at her and go, wow, how did you know I really wanted to do that? I was just waiting for
I'll
you
let you do it,
to
yeah.
give me permission to
Permission
do that.
to do that. To do something that you wanted me to
To
do.
do something that you wanted me to do. And that would piss her off. And she would shut up. And I'm like, stop being passive aggressive. If you want me to do something, ask me. Don't say, I'll let you change the channel.
Right.
I'll let you
Yeah.
answer the phone. Don't do
Yeah,
that.
'cause that's coming from a place of control and
Yep.
power.
Yep.
Okay.
Right.
And so that's something that can't ever be accepted because we have free will. Now, like I'm trying to write down in the book, is we have an influence on other people. We cannot control other people, but we
Right.
can help the information that they process so that they can comprehend different things, so that they don't have to understand. They can actually
Right.
grasp it. They can get it. And they can improve themselves if they want to or not.
Right.
It's up to them. And it's not, it's not me obligating, oh, I gave you some advice. That means you have to take it. No, I gave you
Right.
some advice. If you want to, toss it
free
away
will
like
to
a
take
grain
it
of
or leave it.
sand,
Right.
go right ahead. And it's up to you. Now, that's the whole thing. We cast seeds out there. Now, do we really want to make sure that, then we'll cultivate. If we want to make sure that those seeds really are going somewhere, then we'll till the weeds and we'll turn the soil and we'll make sure that there's fertilizer in that seed to make sure that it grows. But then you're focusing on one seed. We're not focusing on one seed here. We have lots of viewers that are following in, and what we're doing is we're passing out the residents. We're giving them seeds to plant.
Yep.
So that they can plant and take care and cultivate
In their
and
own
make it
expression,
grow
in their
Right.
own vibration.
if they want. Exactly. So we're just handing out seeds is what
Yeah.
we're doing. So what happens to them? Sometimes birds will eat them, sometimes weeds will overgrow them. Sometimes, they'll be in the stones and, they'll get some roots and wither away in 2-3 days.
Yep.
That happens. But that doesn't mean that we stop casting seeds.
Well, and the good thing about that is if a bird
Beautifully
eats the
put.
seed, usually it comes out the way it went in unless they break it open for food.
Oh,
And
I've
then
got-
they deposit it somewhere else while they're flying. And it
I
ends up
have
growing in another
trees.
place.
I have trees growing on my roof because the birds, and they're not trees that I have from around here. The
Right.
birds ate the seeds somewhere else,
Right.
the fruit, and then they
Yeah.
came to their roost. They're roosting in the trees over my house, and all of a sudden, I've got their seeds growing on my roof.
Yep.
So yeah, they'll bring things over and they'll expand them and everything else. So sometimes you got to let people, digest your stuff and shit it out. That's the
Right.
way it can actually grow too.
True.
Right. And that's the proverbial vibration that is the macro or the microcosm to the macrocosm of a bird eating a seed in one place and shitting it out somewhere else and depositing that. They actually call it that. There's the depositor. That's a depositor tree, meaning we didn't try to plant that. Some bird ate something and dropped the seed there
Right.
in their poop and it grew. So, yeah.
Well, that like the wind, right? The wind pisses me off. If there's a breeze, I'm cool. And if you're out sailing, of course that you want the wind, but
Right.
the wind pisses me off, but the wind carries all those seeds, carries them all across the ground or over
Right.
sometimes miles,
Removes the brush
And-
and dirt.
yeah,
whatever.
removes all the dirt, just like the rain does.
Yep.
These are natural ways of
Filtering.
cleansing, but
Filtration and keeping the cycle of life going. It pulls the stuff out of the sky and puts it into the ground. It becomes nutrients for other things, unless of course the humans are involved, and then we have acid rain and poisonous shit that we put into the ground.
is it just me,
That's
or have you guys
something
noticed the geoengineering lately?
Like really bad.
Like
Right?
so
There's
we
a
haven't
lot
been
of
that
like
going
We haven't
on,
been
right?
traveling like you guys have.
Bugs.
You guys have been driving around and everything else, and you've actually noticed that.
Oh man,
How was
everywhere.
your-
Like
how was
almost
your
so
weeks?
many that they're like in geometric patterns. They
Right.
really are. That's what they look like.
Yeah.
Well, they are.
Like these
Yeah.
fuckers are putting spells in the sky, dude.
Yeah.
They
Putting
are.
sigils-
Not a
They-
joke.
it's sigil
It's
magic.
writing. That is not. You're not playing.
Serious.
And they got their own little chemicals that they're doing, but it's,
Yep.
the chemicals are one thing, but the symbols are another, and the placement of them as well, because
Yep.
they know where something's there that they don't want people to see, and so they got to make sure that you're focusing down here on the clouds and not up there on something above.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Out
it's
here, wind
look
brings
here,
dirt.
not-
I'm not sure where that user
Well, sometimes
is
the
'cause they didn't
field
give
comes to
permission.
you, right?
They're either in Australia or in some desert, right? Like Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, or they're over in Australia, or they're in somewhere in Egypt or somewhere, right? And it just brings dirt,
Well,
man.
it removes it for some,
Right.
but unfortunately gathers it up for others. I mean, it does got to go somewhere.
Well, that's the ecosystem that has to work. One thing, it's like the butterfly effect. When you have rain or too much rain in one area, it floods everything. And what does it do? It washes all the stuff away. It changes the landscape, but it
Yeah.
renews the landscape in the same sense. Same thing with fire. Same thing with earthquakes.
You ever seen a
floods,
forest
all of
fire that after a forest fire, how like 2 years after it,
Yeah.
how beautiful and green it is? Because
Yeah.
it's killed all of that old
Brush.
dried out shit.
Well, and then what happens is the chemical, and I know this because of being working in pools and spas. When the fire burns, the chemical that is the smoke is Miracle Grow for all plants.
Yeah.
So, and then the charcoal is as well.
And the
So you
ash,
have
yep.
the leftover
Mhm.
charcoal that's burnt out, and then when
Yep.
the ash hits the ground, that's Miracle Grow for plants. So,
Yep.
so that the renewal, it burns out, like you said, all of the old stuff, and the death of the old stuff becomes food, superfood for new
the
for new
new
life.
Yep.
So whenever there was fires here in California, which happen every season, we who are pool operators, especially pool and spas that are outdoors, we're just just hating it because if there's smoke in the air, algae is going to grow in the pool because that's superfood for algae. So it's like adding
Mhm.
Miracle Grow to the algae.
And if
so
it gets to a
we
certain
have to,
degree, like
fix it.
pH and the nitrogen, and you want it just right, like when
Yep.
like I want fish, I want to do aquaponics. But anybody that
Yep.
has had a fish tank knows this.
Yep.
You have to keep that water straight and get it ready before you can even put fish in. You need to get it to
Yep.
this place where it does start to grow algae
Right.
and
Yeah.
it starts to grow its own little ecosystem
Yes.
before putting fish in. I mean, I just killed a bunch of fish because
Yeah, you actually have to
think
force
it
the
was
water
because of
to
the,
reach equilibrium. Water will
bubble.
try to do that on its own, but
Yeah.
we sanitize water so that the water you get out of the tap, or if you use water that's distilled to fill your fish tank, there's no bacteria. You have
Well,
to introduce that culture into the water.
He was convinced or upsold on an air system, a filter system for the fish,
Right.
which
Yeah,
I
got
believe was way
upsold,
too
dude.
much
And I'm a
because
salesman,
every
and I got
single
upsold. It was terrible.
one of those fish died from an air pocket.
There was too many bubbles in the water. and
Too
the
many
fish
bubbles
were-
in the water. Yeah.
Yeah.
Too
All right,
much
so that's
air
it.
will kill the fish. Yeah.
And so that's the thing. How do I keep that tank? Because now I'm working on lot 3, and I was going to post the video I told you that about yesterday, didn't I, Aaron? I was going to post the video. Well, I can't
Yes.
for another week now. So
Oh shit! You got striked.
I got a strike on last week's show, not
I
last
mean, you can
night.
just go out, just put them on fucking Rumble anyway. That's
Right.
No,
YouTube's
I
all
will.
bullshit anyway.
No, I started off on Rumble. It's just that there was no viewers over there yet.
Right, but you
so-
have people now that follow you and watch you. So
No, well, that's
get that crew, that's really what.
Get them
what
to
I've learned,
understand
like,
you're
pay attention
more
to the people that actually give you love and
Somewhere
actually
else.
give you support.
right.
Those people will fucking support you for years, dude.
Yeah.
Like we all know this. Like there's people that are willing. Like Kathy's right here. That's one of them.
Right.
Like
us being
Right.
able to work with
Tammy's even been
you
Linda
guys,
Winger.
really,
Like
or at
these
least
people.
Leonard
These are
here. Yeah.
like the heart and soul of what we're doing.
Right.
You know, Denise
Right.
Bertucci, another one. Like those people, when you focus,
Linda
like they're
Winger. Mhm.
that's really the ones that are here because they give a shit and they care
Tammy.
and they care about
Mhm.
what we're saying, and
Right.
Yeah.
their vibration is on the same as ours.
Right. Right. Julie says that nitrogen boost. That's what happens when you have fire that burns. And the smoke is rich in nitrogen. My buddy,
Yeah.
who was a landscaper by trade, he owned his own company. He would go to people's houses and he would say, we're trying to schlep to get, I can make your grass green and all this. And he'd go out and he'd shake out nitrogen in the lawn, and the lawn would turn green overnight. And they'd be like, "Wow, what did you do? You're
Yeah.
hired." And he was like, "I just threw nitrogen on the lawn, and it grew overnight because that's what it does. It's superfood. Nitrogen is
What was
superfood
Mike?
for life.
Mike was asking something before we get going. He was asking me how to prepare something,
Right, I
And
was
then-
going to answer that, and then I saw what she had said here.
and I'll give you
he
the
was
best
talking
of my
about the
ability. But I just
oxygenation.
killed a bunch of fish, so.
But
But I figured out what it was.
our
why-
plants
why I
are
did.
loving that air
I'm a
and
mass
that
murderer.
oxygen, right? So
Terrible,
I mean,
dude.
it works in one place. It just didn't work. For
It
what-
was too small of a tank for all the air that it was getting. But you know what's
Right.
working perfect in my hydroponic system?
yes,
Like
Right.
that shit.
beautifully.
Because I've
How
got
big
that
was the
vacuum
tank?
method, I can put the bubbles in there. What's that?
How big was the tank, and how big a fish?
It
were
was
you
only
trying
like
to
a 3-gallon,
Yeah,
dude.
it's just a little 3-gallon tank.
Okay. No,
But you
I
can
actually
actually-
want to.
If
I
you
want
have
to
a
put
big one,
pool down. No, I need to build one, and so that's the whole thing. I want to do it out of concrete, but in the beginning, I'll do it out of tarp. Why? Because right now, time's running out. All the plans to do it the perfect way that I'd already set out and everything else, don't have time for that. But I need those fish and I need those greens because shit's hitting the wall really fucking quick. And
Yep.
Right,
Look,
right.
if you want to oxidize the water and not over oxidize it, just make yourself a natural waterfall.
Yeah.
The water itself falling from a certain distance,
Exactly.
yeah,
even
that's
this
funny.
high,
Yeah.
it'll hit the water and it'll force to oxygenation to
It
saturate the water.
oxygenates and just give them some like run up, like so that's got to be big enough to where they can actually go chill in like the fast running water, but there's not a lot of bubbles.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
what they like to. That's what they thrive in. That is that good,
Yep.
good current.
Because the
but it's
water
not
coming
really
down
fast.
is going to create the
Yeah,
oxygenation.
the oxygenation
And
is
then
gonna come from
the
waterfall.
the
Yep,
amount
or
of
the
water
pump.
that pushes is going to
Yep.
oxidize the rest of the water. Like
if you-
Aaron said, the speed is cool; they're okay with it. It's just
Yeah.
if there's too many bubbles, then that's too much for their
Right.
They're,
gills.
well, they're
Well,
all
'cause if
going
they
up to eat.
swallow
And they're
up
just
that air,
swallowing
they can
bubbles. They're
get-
just swallowing
yeah.
air.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
The
it's like they
concentrated
and
stuff
there were
fucks 'em
goldfish,
up.
dude. Goldfish can live in a tank with no filter. We left a goldfish and went to Tahoe for like 2 weeks. Came back and that fucking goldfish was still alive, dude. No problem. Healthy as hell. Like we didn't feed it. It probably ate its own shit, but
well, see,
And yeah,
my
so
objective
he's
my
like, "What
objective
the hell?"
is
But it was
to have
weird.
my tilapia, and so I need them
There you go,
running
dude.
24/7.
and then
Well,
circulate it
pretty
through like a
pretty
hydroponic
hardy, bro.
system
Yep.
and have it
Exactly.
just keep running
Yeah.
through.
The
Yep.
plants,
Exactly.
the water, and the
Yeah.
whatever. And
Yeah, just
the-
keep
Badass,
doing that
dude. When you start getting into it,
filtration
you'll get.
system like
I'm
we're
excited
talking
about it.
about.
Like when I get.
And that way you get the water coming back. And if it's at a
Yeah.
1 or 2% slope coming in, it's going to create a good waterfall that'll oxygenate it. And if there's not enough
Right.
oxygen at one end, they'll move themselves. But if you pull from
These-
the end that is, you're pulling the water out from the end, you're pulling the water towards it. So if you know
Right.
that there's a long ways from where the waterfall is to the other end, but you don't want to worry about the fish at that end, you pull the
But you
water
want to
from
be able
that
to
end
catch
and let it push. Yeah.
the oxygenation. Yes, that's perfect. But what you want to be able to catch is that solid waste. So you need a filter before it goes back into the water that gets pumped back into the tank.
Yeah.
Right.
You
You
want
want to make
that
sure you're
solid waste.
catching all that solid waste
Yeah.
with the filter.
Well,
And
see, that's why we designed it. That's in my book, and a buddy of mine did this as well. You design a trough, and you grow food in it, and so the trough filters all the poop out as it goes downhill,
Exactly.
and then it gives you
There you
nothing but
go.
clean water
Yep.
going back
Exactly.
into the fish tank.
Yep.
And it
Yep.
pulls
Yep.
all the
You can do
poop
it
and
that
everything
way
and
too.
puts it into the food that you're growing for you to eat and
I
for you to
mean,
throw
yeah,
into the
if you really
tilapia or
wanted
feed the
to,
chickens or whatever you're
there's
doing.
this old thing that none of us pay attention to, but it has so many great uses, and it's called. See that? It's like the terry. What is it called? Damn it! Now I don't
It's
remember.
like a cheese
Cheesecloth.
Like a,
Yeah,
you know,
cheesecloth.
like
You can use
bandage
that if you
cloth,
use it bunched up, but then you want to use
Mhm.
charcoal like we were just talking about. So you want a charcoal filter and then a cheesecloth filter, something that catches that hard waste, and then
That
like you
allows
want
things
charcoal
to
at the
flow
end
through,
after
right?
the hard waste has been caught, goes through the charcoal and cleans that water, but that water still has all that nitrogen in it for the greens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
Like
could
all-
use
and you don't have to
diatomaceous
fucking
earth.
buy any
You could
nutrient.
use sand. We used sand filters for a long time
Yep.
here in this country, and they got away from
I
that.
use
Went to the
sand here.
diatomaceous earth. That's better. People actually eat that, can ingest that stuff.
If you
They
make an
grind it
NFT
up.
system that just tubing, if you make that system, you don't need any of that shit. You don't need. All you do is put that root in the water. As long as it's getting water all the time,
Mhm.
it's gonna fucking just thrive, dude. I'll take some more pictures of the plants that I
Yeah,
got
that's
here.
that's the
I'm gonna
hydroponic.
leave
You
with
got
my
it.
daughter.
Yeah,
You got
yeah.
the current flowing through the root system,
Always
and
doing
they'll
the
do it.
nutrients.
Yeah.
They're getting them straight. I mean, it's good. We're gonna grow in soil because when we move on land, we're gonna need to get rid of a lot of the waste.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
well,
have
see, my
animals, we need
thing
to
is that anytime I've got a garden back here that I had to hoe this last week, actually 2 days ago. But what happens is that just the weeds overgrow everything because
Yeah.
it's too good. Everything grows, and so in the
Yeah.
hydroponic system, I can
Right.
control what's growing there. You know,
Right.
without all the other shit going on, and that's one of the things that I want to do with the hydroponics.
And that's the beauty of hydroponics and aquaponics. Aquaponics just means you're putting fish in there. So
Right.
and you
It's
can
like
use,
a-
and
it's
tilapia for
an
some reason, I
ecosystem.
guess they're the
Right.
best for that shit. Like they just
Oh,
Yeah,
because
because
they
you-
eat residue.
Because
But
it-
somebody
yeah.
told me, why do you want to be eating a bottom feeder? That's going to be bad for you. Eating bottom feeder fish all the time.
No,
Gotta
not
learn how to
necessarily.
prepare it.
Not necessarily. They try.
Catfish is my
Here's the thing,
favorite
okay?
fish to
Here's the
eat,
deal,
and-
bro. I look
I
up
know.
tilapia in the American market for sale. Right now, tilapia is the same price as salmon.
Yeah.
That's got to tell you something. You can buy
It's just as
catfish, you can
useful.
buy trout cheaper, and pollock cheaper than tilapia, which is considered a garbage fish by most people
And well, you got to find out what is it that I'm sure where Mike is
in this country,
tilapia
not
is
around the
perfect.
world. And around the
But
world,
that's
that's
the cool thing
essential
about
food. Tilapia
tilapia.
is the essential food.
You can
Go ahead.
use salmon, you can use trout, you can use catfish, whatever you want to use. But tilapia is like works everywhere. Like any
Right.
climate.
Yeah, but
just
the
a
problem
hardy
with that
fish.
though is there's
So
laws
that- yeah.
here in the state of California because we're
Less
above a certain
distance.
line in the above the equator. They won't
Yeah.
let you use. They won't let you farm tilapia up here. You can
Oh,
only
shit.
do bass and trout here in California this far
Why is
north.
that?
Because
It's a
that
regulation
our
because
government
some weird
decided that.
biology- yeah.
Why? For the same reason they
Bullshit.
outlawed the Moringa oleifera tree, which is called the the chicken tree, which is that tree by itself, one tree in every household, and nobody has to buy any freaking carrots. No one has to buy a banana. No one has to buy a date. No one has to buy any salad because the one tree by itself, you can eat everything: the root, the skin, the bark. Every part of the tree you can consume,
Yeah.
and it has more nutrients than most of the foods that we get in the store.
Wait,
So they've
what's the name of
outlawed
that? What's the
Same
name of
thing
that
with-
one?
Moringa oleifera.
Moringa.
Oleifera. You can grow it there, and you probably have some and don't know it. They grow like 30 feet a month. Not a joke. If you don't trim it in 6 months, it's like 60 feet tall and huge. So, but you consume every part of it. And they call it the chicken leg tree or the chicken tree in Southeast Asia. It will save the planet from starvation. That and tilapia. And that's what people do in Southeast Asia is they farm tilapia, they grow the Moringa oleifera tree, and then they have other plants and other things, chickens and all of that. And that's how we learned about it here in the West. That's how I learned about it. I copied their method, had them teach me their method. Most of us preppers that are world preppers and not just living within the bounds. Well, then when we try to do it in Pittsburgh, California, which is 30 miles east of San Francisco, we were told by law we couldn't grow tilapia, so we did trout and largemouth bass because those are native to this area.
Yeah.
No tilapia. They're afraid, like duckweed. They outlawed duckweed because if you have duckweed introduced into a lake, it will cover the entire lake, forcing the lake to go into equilibrium. Well, we don't want it to be completely into equilibrium
we
or
have
covered,
lots of
even though
programs that
their
we wanna
food
get
is a
funding for.
superfood.
Right.
Even though duckweed is a superfood that everyone can eat, you can eat it as a salad, and it has.
I
more
heard about that.
nutrients
I
than
mean,
any
I've never
piece
got
of
into the
leaf
duckweed,
that
but
we
I've
grow
heard
to
about
eat.
it.
What's that?
There's
Go
a
ahead,
guy on
brother.
TikTok that he really he grows it, or he really
Duckweed?
cultivates it or talks about it. He gets into it. He makes little medicine
one of his
bags too. He just
passions,
lives in the
right.
Everglades.
Yep.
And he'll do TikToks, like live TikToks, and just talk about it. But yeah, it's cool that this is being a pirate right here, y'all. If you haven't, this is what we're talking about. We're
That's
talking
what I
about
put in my book. I
systems
talk
that's
about that stuff in my
sustained.
book, guys.
Yes.
You guys get that on Kindle. I think it might be out of physical print right now because I'm not paying those assholes right now to print it. But you can get it on Kindle for $5.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, duckweed, Moringa oleifera. We tried to grow some in Arizona because we're far enough south in Arizona and Phoenix. But the Arizona state government outlawed them. There were some that were being grown in the city of Phoenix, and they outlawed it. Why? Because it's a tree that if everyone has one in their yard,
Greens
they
it
won't
up.
starve to death.
Yeah.
So they can't have that. They have
That's
to
weird.
eradicate it and don't tell people about
That's
it.
weird. But you know what? You can grow some good citrus shit, I'm sure, down in Arizona, right?
Yeah.
You're from
And
Arizona,
peanuts.
so I'm going to be
People
looking
have
to you
no
for a lot
idea
of.
what you can grow in that desert. Everybody thinks that the desert is this barren wasteland. That's what they want you to believe.
No. Yep.
Right.
There's,
It has-
oh
it's
man, there's
colorful.
so much life underground as well.
Yes.
And there's tons of stuff that you can do. And why? Because life proliferates. No matter what it does, it hides itself from the problems. And in the desert, it's the extreme heat and the lack of rain. So where does humidity? As far away from the surface as possible. So you dig in a little bit into the sands of the desert, and you're going to find lots
Right.
of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, and that's really what we should be doing is
I mean,
greening
look
the
at
desert,
Nazca.
right? You've heard
Most
that
of the
term.
water's underground.
That's the whole thing. The one of the things that we can do is stop expanding the deserts, and our current lifestyle and the way that we do things is expanding deserts because we consume a lot of water. We do not recycle it. We don't. We take it away from other areas, and our agrarian system is killing the fish in the rivers
Gotta
and
catch the
in
rain,
the
man.
estuaries. Why? Because they have no oxygen there because of all the nitrogen from the fertilizers that run off and everything else. So there needs to be a certain basis and balance that we can actually find. Now,
Do
do
that
I
in
sound
some
like
areas, bro, where they have to. If you go to Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas, especially, and parts of Nevada, they've changed their whole. In Arizona, the only water that the state of Arizona gets is from the monsoon season, the monsoon rain. So
And it rains like a
100%.
motherfucker at times, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100% of all water during the monsoon season is recycled and filtered and brought back for the people to drink. Without the monsoon season, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas would have no water. So
Right,
no water.
they've learned. The state of California, I agree with you, bro. I've been complaining. My uncle, he was actually my cousin, but we called him uncle. He was my grandfather's nephew. He literally helped design the waterways in the state of California. And in 1974, when he was going to retire, he said, this system that you guys have accepted is 35 years out of date now. And if you don't do something about the levees in the state of California, they're going to fail utterly. And they were like, thank you, Charles. Aren't you retiring? So they didn't care. And now all of a sudden we have Orville Dam broke in 2016 and the levees are all breaking whenever there's too much rain. And now they're scrambling to shore up the system that in 1975, my cousin who designed most of the dams and waterways in the state of California, Arizona, and Nevada, no joke, working for the Agricultural Department of the United States, when he retired, he said, you guys are way outdated. You need to do something now progressively to fix this. And here we are. Right here we are. What is that? 40, 50 years later, 60 years later, and they still haven't done anything. And he warned them when he retired. So the system here is bad. It's broken. They don't recycle any water. They just let it run back out to the ocean. And then all of a sudden we have a drought because there's not enough rain. If they recycled all the water like these states who were deserts did, we would never have a drought. They don't ever have a drought. And it's a desert, for fuck's sake.
Right.
But see, what they do is they can't recycle it because they have to use it for the big city centers. Those big megalopolises
has a lot of golf courses, dude. Whoa. Now,
those are
golf courses. They don't even use. They don't use any. Like it's yellow grass, but it'll grow. Like grass is hardy. It'll grow. But dude, I've worked on a golf course. Holy shit! You know how much water they use? Like, dude, they water 2 or 3 times a day.
Yeah,
and that's the whole course.
Yeah.
You got 18 holes of all that course, dude. Oh my God. That is such a waste of water.
Well, but they charge so much money. The rich people are the ones who go to the country club. They just waste everybody else's stuff. They don't care about the ecosystem. They don't care about us. They don't care about the land. They don't care about
there's an
the money
ecosystem there, but it's like they're trying to create this whole swampy place, and sometimes in desert areas, especially like links courses in Arizona and shit. You see those, like there's all this green in the middle, which is good, greening the desert. However, you're using a lot of water to do that when we can catch a lot of that water. Like, how about let the nature take care of that course? Like, if it gets yellow, let it be yellow. I'll play up. Dude, I've played in snow before. Snow rules. It lands in the snow. You just move it out of the snow a little bit. No further to the hole, right? Or when it was frozen ground, you know, like there's ways. I think we started this conversation in this show with allowing nature to take its course, like not allowing others to try to force nature into something else or try to conserve where they really shouldn't be conserving, you know, which conservation, we need it. That's for sure. But there's so much bureaucracy and corruption that they're fucking things up. I couldn't even find a place to camp within 100 miles, like radius, because it was so private. Like, and there's plenty, like we were just talking about, you know, there shouldn't have that problem. You know what I mean?
Agreed, right? Well, you know, we
have so much land and so where it rains, but we're wasting it. We're wasting a lot of the resources that come in. We're not, like, you see people out in Arizona for that monsoon season, they're collecting rain. They're collecting, like, off their shit. They're using those, like, what do they call those? Ones where they got the slant roof and it's a metal roof, and they're just draining it right into their, into their catchment system.
Yeah, and you know what was happening for those people who were living off the grid doing that? They were being sued. They're being sued by by some of the Democrats in the state government because they claim the United States owns that air, so they own the water that comes down, and you're illegally taking the water away from America.
We are the United States. Just remember that when somebody wants to tell you something, we are the United States. We make the rule. They don't.
Yeah, right.
But see, they're under Marxist indoctrination.
just
They think the
corrupted
system.
Indoctrination, yes.
indoctrination.
And I know
Whatever
there
it
is
is.
Anyone that
some
thinks that the
religion
system,
out there that thinks they can do these things, but guess what? We are
anyone who
all
thinks
sovereign, no matter what we believe. So
Exactly.
No
fuck
matter
you.
what country
You can
we're
go
in.
ahead and believe
No-
that if you
We're
want
fucking
to, but
aliens.
Right.
yeah. However, anyone that actually believes the system has the right to impose its will on others
exactly.
is just wrong. Period.
Yeah.
Because
Amen.
the reason that we actually got together and said we want to be a community is because we all respect each other and we all want to get along, not because we want to centralize power and have some other fucking asshat tell us
Right.
how to live our lives. You
Right.
stay your shit over there. I'm gonna keep doing my stuff over here, and you can fuck off. Okay? Any more of that shit, and you know,
Now there are
some.
some exceptions for me, which is like, don't shit in woods too much because people are going to get sick. That's how, that's how we have the actual real pandemics and epidemics.
Right.
That's how that starts.
Yeah.
From dirty and just making sure we take care of our waste, making sure
If you
we
are
take,
going outside,
we don't
use
dump and pollute.
biodegradable stuff.
Those kind of
leave a
rules.
bunch of
Those are there for a
chemicals.
reason. But however, it's not that way anymore. It's went so
Well, see, the
far to
thing
the
is,
extreme.
shitting in the woods is one thing. If you actually, and people knew this like thousands of years ago, you always have a little shovel with you.
Right.
Yeah.
Period.
Because even fucking cats know how to bury their fucking
That's
shit.
what I'm
They
saying.
need something else to work
Animals
on it.
will
And
bury
if you're
their
going to
own
wipe
shit most of
yourself,
the
make sure
time.
it's
Yeah.
biodegradable.
Yeah.
They used to use leaves once upon a time ago, right? Biodegradable. Or throw it in the garbage.
Like I said,
right?
compost,
Do
dude. That's
something that's
original compost right there.
Well,
That's-
That is
one of the
original
things
power.
I remember when I was a kid, one of the things that was going around was that America was just completely beside themselves because the Germans were using human waste for fertilizer. Oh my
But it
God.
works so well.
And I'm
It's
like, that's
amazing.
the best kind of fertilizer.
the
We
best.
eat
It is
right?
the best.
all kinds
It
of
is the
food
best.
and shit out, all kinds of great stuff, man. The animals eat crap food that gives them cancer over
Right.
time. We eat better food unless you're American, and then you have to really watch it. Otherwise, they give you the same shit now that gives you cancer over time. But the food that we eat is better than the food animals eat because they scavenge for whatever they can get unless they're living off other animals,
Yeah.
right? And then they're doing a little bit better. But the truth is, our poop is better. That's why I loved in that movie The Martian when he was like, yes, I cooked shit from my own shit. I grew shit from my own shit. Yes, I did.
I've
Dogs
seen that
will
movie
eat
in a
their
while.
own poop for many numerous reasons. Sometimes it's different nutrients.
It's
got
sometimes
nutrients
it
they
What
smells
wanted
is
good.
the
it.
topic?
Sometimes
Is it
Not that I'm
wasting
eating
poop?
shit,
No,
but
the
It's
topic is the
really-
principle of vibration, but we're talking about all vibration. So we ended up going down the road of conservation.
well, and the thing is,
yeah,
you
Vibration
can't
is
go through
everything.
one day without at least thinking about poop. It
I'm
is a
sorry.
Yeah.
purge. It's what we need. We need to get rid of it.
I mean, as
And-
children, we don't think about it that much. We try to
But
avoid
really,
it
when
so
you
we
have
can keep
kids or
playing.
you
I
get
get
older,
that,
you
but-
start thinking about your poops.
Yep.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
their
'cause you
poop.
got to start then.
And
You
how
got
are
to
you
start paying
pooping
attention.
today?
Am I pooping
Have you
enough?
pooped today?
Is my poop normal? Right? I mean, when you get older, you start thinking about your poops. You're right. You start thinking about your pees. You start thinking about your poops.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, it sucks. It's kind of gross, but really,
I smell a little
nobody
different
doesn't
today,
do it.
like,
If you don't
whatever,
do it, you're gonna die.
Like,
You
Well,
know,
see-
that's the truth. When I was working in construction and maintenance, especially during the summertime, because here where I was working, the temperature could get up to 115, 113 during the summer. I would tell my entire crew, if you're thirsty, you're already in trouble. If you go pee, I need to know what color it is, and there will be a test. And they're like, what? I'm like, if your urine is not clear and it is in any color, orange or brown, you're in trouble. If it's orange, you're not doing too bad. If it's brown, that's particles of your kidneys.
Oh God!
Coming
dude,
out.
Yikes!
Okay, that's bad.
see, now,
Yikes! I don't go there.
here's the thing.
Yeah,
I
and when
used
it
to
gets orange,
drink
you
Dr.
know
Pepper
that
all
you
the time.
need to hydrate.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
any time I would get upset, stomach, get sick, and I'd throw up, it was never like a normal. It never looked normal. It was always chunks of brown.
Okay,
Right?
we really gotta get off this topic of poop. I mean,
Well,
I
it
know
just
it
goes
fits
to
into
show
vibration,
you
We need to
but
get- we need
whoa.
to get
why
back on
you gotta
topic.
watch what you're
Everybody's gonna
eating
leave,
and what you're
right?
drinking.
Let's
I
all go
went,
eat some soft
I
serve
got off those
chocolate ice
dark
cream right now.
syrups.
Oh
all of a sudden-
God!
I'm way normal, right? Those syrupy things that we all love
Oz,
so much
healthy poop is
are
shaped like a snake.
little poisonous
It's
things
true.
that we eat and
True,
drink
too.
on the constant.
Yep.
And if we're not aware of it, it can be you won't even know.
All
for
right,
a
so
while.
let's segue out of this.
Right?
We can
Let's-
also
let's-
understand that the FDA has actually allowed a certain quantity of
Poop.
cockroaches,
Yep.
ants, and
Yeah, in your food.
rats
In
In
your
your
food.
food. Yep.
Yeah.
They are allowed by the FDA because they can't eliminate it completely because that
Right.
shit's everywhere.
And if
So guess
So
what?
if you think
You're
that like
eating
this,
shit
this,
anyway.
this is where I'm fucked up in the head. I'm not. I feel like I'm right here. When they tell you that there's a drought and shit, like okay, my brother was freaking out about it. He's an outdoorsman. Like he
He's
goes
so awesome.
and we
with
both
bees,
learned
yeah.
about carrying capacity of certain lands, right? That if you have so many in a certain land, yes, they're going to die off. Some of them are going to die off, right?
Right.
We learned this in hunter safety. Anyway, I think that there's some truth to that. However, I think it's because we haven't sprawled and like actually like had homes out in the middle of nowhere and actually developed more of these places to create more because we create ecosystems
Actually,
as well.
we
Yeah.
did that. We did that 150 years
But
ago.
dude, look at how
And the
much
problem
land is
is that
untouched.
we didn't know how to do those things because we were still coming from the city mentality.
Yeah.
So we bought little cities everywhere instead of communities, self-sustaining communities that are there to actually.
Well,
that are
that's just
thinking
it.
like real permaculture, like actually,
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you have
They
to
were
realize
they were
most of
spreading
that is
another
done
seed
on
throughout the
purpose,
continent.
guys.
Yeah,
Most of
well,
that's
each
done
time
on
we-
purpose because they don't want everybody to be living off of the land.
no,
They
Yeah.
don't want that. They want it to be the hardest, harshest possible
they
way.
get more money
Well,
that way.
get
we
around
we
and put
went away,
sewers
More
in.
right?
control.
They want
And we
you
have
to-
these
yes,
little
they-
wars that make
yeah.
ourselves independent for our own free thoughts. But
Yeah.
then, no matter what, and every time you look at it, there's always that person that ends up over here that really has that secret control. They're going to feed you a little bit of freedom. They're going to make you feel like you got this, that, and the other. But all of a sudden, you realize after a while, hang on now. Why have I only got this choice and this choice if I'm a free fucking sovereign human being? Why can't I just make my own damn choice about what I'm doing? No
Right.
matter what it is you're doing, right?
Right. Well, that's what they do. They give you, like, for instance, Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola, two of the largest companies that make soda, provide the only 5 brands each for Americans to drink, and each one of them have more than 150, and a couple of them have almost 1,000 different brands of soda
Yep.
for around the world. But they only give Americans 5 or 6. Why?
Right? Isn't
Yeah.
it interesting?
And why'd they get rid of glass? Because glass biodegrades, dude, or it actually has
That's
use
exactly
after it
natural.
even breaks.
It's
They
part of
needed
staying
something to do with all the plastic to justify turning
Yeah.
oil into
Well, remember-
gasoline. They had all
What was
this
that
plastic.
movie, dude?
No,
Plastic.
hold
You know what
on.
the next wave of
No.
plastics?
I've got a thing on this one.
Yeah.
Norway actually did a study on some of their citizens. They took blood plasma and they filtered it and everything else, and they found microplastics inside the human bloodstream.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now that is not something that happened, from 2 weeks ago or 2 months ago
Right.
or 2 years
Right.
ago.
Nope.
It is a process that they have been going, and as much plastic as they could shove into every single situation. Why did they get rid of glass? Because it breaks and kids were getting hurt off broken glass.
Well, I have a
Plastic
scar.
didn't break.
I have a
mean,
scar
And I
on my
get that.
wrist.
The
that
plastics
came
were even
from
much bigger.
falling when I was a
However,
kid on a piece
right?
of glass.
The
I did a
plastic in the
documentary,
long
which
term,
has been taking down from the internet on the amount of plastic that's in the oceans and how much plastic that we have just in even filtered water that is in our systems because of the plastic that we use. We're going to be
Yes,
known as the
because
plastic generation.
And
because
I've
it doesn't break down completely.
Trust me, plastics are great.
never
but
does.
when you're using like
Just breaks
synthetic
down to
bullshit
smaller and
that can
smaller
just
particles. Still the same mass.
Right.
Still the same
Well,
mass.
and can we even
It's
say
gonna
that,
be the
like,
golden
okay,
age,
can we even
the
say that?
Bronze Age, the Steel Age, and the
Right.
Plastic Age, and that's what we're going to be known for.
But you know how there's like I have this like weird, I don't know, another one of those theories in my own head from the work I've done and what I've seen. Everything that is here and in the universe is we have the makeup of all of it. We
Yes.
have all of that in us. Right? So maybe even the microplastics. I'm not going to state that as fucking fact, but I'm just saying it's something to think about. What if that's kind of like they use, like, again, we can't even believe
create
anything anymore.
anything
We
that's
can't
not-
believe any official that it tells us or that the most intelligent or most, the genius people that, the geniuses that are telling us these things, these scientists. I mean, we've seen that over the last couple of years, how corrupt that is. and how they're not. I mean, look
Well,
at
but
Egypt.
what you have to
dude.
realize is that humans didn't have plastic in their bodies before we invented plastic on the planet. So if it was something that was already here in nature, and when they
That's what I'm
look
saying.
at that,
I don't
go back
believe
in
we can
time,
create
Hold on,
they'd
anything.
say, "Oh wow,
completely
okay,
synthetic.
no, we've always had plastic, so that's bullshit." I agree with you, but the fact is, we didn't have plastic in anything. It's in the ecosystem.
Right.
It's in the food that we eat because the fish in
Right.
the ocean have plastic in it. All
Right.
the
Yeah.
birds eat the fish; they have plastic
Right.
in them. All the food
Yep.
that we have that we get from McDonald's or from the store has plastic in it now. There's
Yep.
nothing in
No,
the
no. Some of
ecosystem
that
that's
food
not
isn't necessarily has plastic in it. Some of that food actually is plastic.
Is plastic? No,
Right.
yeah, really. Like you're just
Agreed. Like
eating it.
Velveeta cheese is literally one molecule away from being
However,
plastic.
when at what point
Margarine.
in time could we
Margarine,
actually
one-
study that?
Margarine, one molecule.
One molecule away from plastic.
Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Bugs will eat
It's a
butter. They
silicate,
won't
right?
eat
Isn't
margarine.
plastic a silicate?
Yes.
Which is a stone, which is a
No.
mineral.
Well, silicate
It is.
sand.
If it's a silicate, it's a mineral. It's
Silicate is
crystal
sand.
quartz.
There's
I
a
wouldn't.
lot
I
of-
wouldn't say that plastic is silicate because it doesn't have sand. It just uses
Right.
the.
I want to see now.
the oil.
When
I wanna look it
when
up,
the
just 'cause I don't
animal
know.
life
Well-
breaks down in the compost or in wherever, that's what with oil is. Oil is the
Oil would be
dinosaurs
acrylic.
when
It's
their
a
bodies
petroleum.
broke
It
down.
Acrylic.
So
But it's
yeah,
still
so,
natural,
so there's
of
acrylic.
Not really.
You know, it seeps from the bones. It seeps from, but it doesn't manifest in our body the way it does currently.
Right.
Until it became a byproduct and we started using it.
Right.
And then
And
when it breaks
consuming on
down,
a
now
constant.
it's
Mhm.
infiltrated our system, our bodies, our ecosystem in
Well,
a
just
way
like
that it
CBDs
wasn't
and
nature.
natural
It
things
wasn't
that we used to
natural.
have
The
all
other
the
way it was
time.
natural.
We
I'm
stopped.
sorry. Go ahead, Norma.
Right?
Norma, say that again. I'm
Go ahead,
sorry. I was
Norma.
talking.
No, I'm like right there with you. I'm saying that's just it. We have an endocannabinoid system, but for many years we demonized
Yep.
feeding and like making sure we were healthy and balanced with whatever might have a cannabinoid. All plants have
Yeah,
cannabinoids.
agreed.
Okay, but there's one plant
We're
in
getting into
particular
alchemy
that
right now. This is an
ultimately
alchemy.
carries
That's why
some
I'm understanding
cannabinoids that are very
what
healthy
I'm
for you.
saying. I'm like, yes, I'm getting
Right?
everything. Go ahead, continue. Yeah.
Let's
So
let's all hurt
understanding
our
that-
brains. Let's all hurt our brains tonight from thinking.
You maybe. I'm. That's what I'm always
But
here
no,
for,
that's
man.
just it.
Right. Me too. I
when
agree, Mike.
I don't think anything is completely and totally synthetic because everything is coming from what's coming from this earth at some point.
Right. Everything's
Okay.
nature. I agree with you.
However,
Yep.
that doesn't necessarily mean that it's healthy and okay and we should be ingesting it
Right.
or
But we live
whatever.
on it. We are
Now,
part of it.
let me get to that nature part. Yes. If it's coming out of the ground, it's natural. If we're processing it primarily, secondarily,
Right.
it's natural. If we've
Right.
pounded the ever living shit out of it, if
Yeah,
we've
right.
boiled and dried the
Right.
fuck out of it and
Right.
become a worthless powder, I'm sorry, that has none of the original vibration, and
Right.
that is now
Yep.
an industrial product.
Right.
Yes.
Look at
And it has
nuclear. Look at
none of
I
the
don't know,
nuclear,
man.
life.
Cocaine's pretty good.
Yeah, right. But look at the nuclear reaction. That came
At
from
least
nature, but we
cocaine.
changed it and it destroys. So they've
Right.
changed it. They've changed the plastic as well from
They
the silicon
they
that
have
it
switched
originally
the
was.
molecules. They've
Yeah.
taken something
They
natural
have done
and they've
bad
created
alchemy.
yes.
Bad.
Exactly.
Bad,
And
bad.
and like the coke that you were talking about, the coca leaves. Whenever I went to Peru,
Oh,
and
you
I
choose
went
a
up to
little bit of
Machu
those
Picchu.
and
When I went up to Machu Picchu, we would actually chew the coca leaves because at that altitude, you needed a
Yeah.
stimulant in order to be able to
Right.
breathe and keep going.
To
Okay,
keep the
but
lungs
it's
open. To keep the
exactly. But then I
bronchioles
asked my guide how many of because he had just a pouch full of the leaves, and he'd hand them out by the fistfuls, right? And you're chewing it, and it's like chewing gum, right? It's no big deal, but whatever. They've also got the coca tea whenever you get to the hotel and that sort of thing, so you
you
can
can
actually
create these
acclimate
things
to
in
that.
many different ways, right?
I asked
everything-
my guide. I asked my guide how much of this
If
actually
Virginia
went in.
says, let's talk
1
about
gram.
organics. That's what got us onto this topic. Is we started with organics, Virginia, and that's how we got
Why
on
we
the
started talking
Go
about
ahead, Mike. Continue.
Now, see, the thing is that my guide there told me that for 1 gram of the white stuff, you need 8 kilograms of the natural leaf,
of the leaf.
Yes.
plus all the
Yeah. So
chemicals and
they're
everything else
basically
that they put
refining it
into
down
it.
to concentrate.
Certain
Exactly. So it
ingredients-
has nothing to do with nature
Okay, so
anymore.
it's not
It's something
over. It's
completely-
not overdone. That's
Yeah,
why
it's over. It's over fucking done, absolutely, and it's for a reason.
Right.
But the original natural part actually has healing and necessary properties to it.
Yeah.
That's why natural
So it's like
plants are
smoking
not-
flower as opposed to smoking or compared to smoking
Well, what's
The
grass, honey?
concrete.
We used to eat it. We used to eat it.
Go scrape
Nice.
concrete
It's
off the wall
It's refined.
and roll it and smoke that concrete and figure out how that is versus a flour. Okay?
I'm not
So
smoking
the
any
industri-
concrete, though.
Yeah,
Well,
me either. Right?
exactly, because
I mean,
it's
that's what they
it's
call a
between-
brick back in the 80s, dude.
Right.
I
That's-
don't want
the-
one of those bricks.
That's
Yeah,
that's
me
the
either.
industrial to the natural.
Yeah.
Okay, and we
Yeah.
know that one's not good for you, but we know that the other one is.
Yeah.
Not going to do that
I
much
mean, it
harm
just
to you.
depends, dude. It just depends. Like, it depends on where it's cut, who cuts it, if it's pure or not.
No,
Right.
I mean, I'm not somebody who does it all.
Which
the,
is all about business.
saying,
What
cocaine's
business
a hell
is
of a drug.
working with
It's a
this
really-
product?
I don't.
Who am I
I'm
going to
not-
buy it from? Who's
not
adding
some
these
cokehead,
additives?
but I'm just
Who's
saying,
using it more naturally?
Every few years, if there's something that comes through and it looks all pure, it almost looks unreal because it's
It
been
usually
ground
is.
up so much.
Yeah.
I don't. Okay, we'll quit talking about that because we'll probably
let's
probably
get
get
back
more
to-
bans from that.
When I was living in Pittsburgh, that was the place where we did the Eponics. There was a guy that lived next door to us, and he was from Mexico, and his job was fumigation. And I was talking to him one day, and he said, in Mexico, I wouldn't have a job. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, in Mexico, we build our houses out of the earth. He
Yep.
says, we still do the adobe. And he says, and because of that, we don't have termites. We don't have rats. We
That's
don't
what
have
we wanna
rats.
do,
We don't have
too.
mice. We
Yeah.
don't have termites. He says, the biggest problem in America is all the wood. You guys knock down the trees and you make houses out of
When
it.
we got
And
rid
the
of
termites get
cannabis.
infested in it, and then I have a job. In Mexico,
Yeah.
there is nobody that puts a big tent over your house and fumigates
Dude, my
your house.
dream is to have an Adobe hut, it's called Hyper Adobe now. Or
In Arizona,
that
you can
shit
build the house that has that, or you
Arizona
can live in one.
in New
Yeah.
Mexico, the only places.
Yeah,
you
New
can do it,
Mexico
dude.
too. Yeah, anywhere in the
There's
in the
like
Sonora
5
Desert.
states where you can do where you can actually go live on your land, which I still think I need a trailer so I can have septic system so they don't fuck with me. But
There are certain things.
dude, I've seen a guy on YouTube that he's like totally doing it, and I think it's like northeast Arizona. So
Yeah.
he's probably over there by the Four Corners, and he just has a van he lives in, and then he's got land. He got laid off from work during the pandemic shit.
Right.
Started writing books, you know what I mean, and started had $6,000 I think to his name, and then his car, and he started this whole, his property, bought some
He's now got
property. I
pigs.
think he's got like
and
10
chickens
acres. So,
and
yeah,
all kinds. I mean, he is
and
becoming.
he's living in his van, dude.
sustainable
That's
to
where he's
degree.
living until he's building structures like his office, which I'm sure
Right.
you sleep in your office
We would
sometimes.
probably be building our.
You know what I
office
mean?
too
Like you're gonna
first.
you just
because we
build
are
as an
lost.
office or a solar room
Right.
or a, you know what I mean? And that way, and when you're building these things, you're actually practicing on, because I've never done it before. I've never done Hyper Adobe, but
But we've been watching.
we've been watching a lot of this, and from what I'm seeing, it's like,
Hopefully.
practice on these little sheds and
Right.
like your office,
Yes.
and then
When you got it
when you
mastered,
get to like
you live
building
in
your home,
Yes.
you actually got some experience in doing it. But I would, dude, Adobe keeps the heat out and the cold out, and it'll be cool in the summer and warm in the winter.
Well, and you know what? The other thing you
great
can
way to do
do,
it.
they
It's
showed it
natural.
in Star
I
Wars. Do you
agree.
remember where Luke lived? He lived on a desert planet. Where was his
That's what I
house?
mean.
Buried in the sand. In Arizona, people bury their houses. Not
underground.
everyone, but not everyone. But you will
Well, there's
find
some
houses
here in
buried.
Utah
You'll
even
find
that
a
way.
Right.
you'll find,
When I
a,
was-
you find a driveway that goes up to nothing.
Goes
with
into
a
the fucking
mailbox and a
ground.
staircase that goes down into the ground, and that's through the
That'd be
houses
cool.
are underground.
Well, in Minecraft, one of my favorite things was I would dig into the ground because then the zombies and everything else would just walk over the house. And
Yeah.
I'd just dig out a tunnel and do whatever I needed to do there. Now, that's not necessarily feasible in reality here because, dirt will collapse on you if you don't put a structure and that sort
Right.
of stuff. So living underground can be problematic.
Well, it's
However-
nice in your environment.
Yeah, but,
Well,
you know,
especially if
you've
try to
got
do
you've got the
that
van.
bullshit where they say you can bury a cargo a container, right? And don't buy into that because the cargo container walls are thin and they collapse. So don't ever have
Yeah,
somebody
don't do
tell
that.
you
You
on
need-
burying
you need
a cargo
something
container
that- yeah,
and thinking you're going to live in it. Don't do that.
Something natural. I
You
mean,
need like
concrete is
3 or 4
natural.
feet of concrete, like
Yeah.
thick, to hold that shit out. Yeah,
Yep.
you can use
Or
that as
whatever
a
kind of
structure, the
stone
starting
we're gonna use,
structure.
right.
Yeah,
But I'm
you
looking
need
at,
to
I'm not an
reinforce
engineer,
all
but I
the
am in
ground around
construction.
that
I've
so it
been in
doesn't cave in.
construction.
I've
Yeah.
Actually, my
Yeah,
my retaining wall is 7 meters tall, and I hold about 14 meters of land on each one of them. So yeah, I had to put some serious rebar, but it's not 3 foot. It's not bunker type stuff.
Like,
No, it's about 1.5 feet. The size that I need, that I actually made 20 years
Is it
ago.
wood or is it out of
555, y'all. Good number. Or
That's
655.
my number.
455 for you, and
Right now it's
855.
54.45. And
555. I just seen
Mike,
recognize.
is your
That
retaining
was
wall
my number.
out of concrete or is it out of wood?
no, concrete with rebar.
Yeah, good for you. Yeah.
Okay, and I have drainage underneath. I mean, my dad was a civil engineer, so I built
Yeah,
houses
see,
for him when I
the
was a kid.
drainage is important. People don't realize that either. That's why if you
Oh,
guys look at a
that adds
tunnel or
more
a
pressure
highway
to it.
alongside, you'll see little holes in it periodically. That's because they're allowing for the water to drain off. Because if you don't do that, that water builds up against that whatever that retainer wall
Wall.
is, and it starts to erode underneath and
Right.
around the
No,
retainer wall.
not
That's what
only
happened
that, but
here.
water itself puts more pressure than anything else. And
Yes,
if you got
because the
soggy
water
dirt,
weighs a lot.
Well, we're
That's
all
why-
water, right? If there
Yeah,
were no
well, that's why
water,
when people
we
build
wouldn't even
pools, they don't
exist.
reinforce the walls as
So
much
you'd
because
think
they know they're going
most
to fill it
things
with
in the
water.
world.
So the water
the
itself
water
helps
pushes
keep
out.
the pool. Yeah, helps keep
water
the pool
is
from
one of the
collapsing.
heaviest things per square meter.
Yeah.
You know, a ton is a square meter of water.
Yep.
So, when you have to calculate, and here with all the rain, yeah, you definitely have to have a good drainage system. Otherwise, your wall will collapse.
Earth is very
many
dense.
walls. There have been many walls that have collapsed.
Yep.
Here that I've seen on the news and everything else. See it in the newspaper. They'll build little retaining walls out of stone with concrete,
Yeah.
hoping that will be enough. But no, my dad was a civil engineer, and so he saw the plans, and he said, "Wow, they really do it thin, don't they?" Because my dad was trained in Mexico City, and so all of the stuff that they had to do in engineering there had to calculate for earthquakes as well.
Right. Yeah.
And so his rebar, I basically doubled the rebar that was in the original schematics, and that's what I'm going to end up doing here because I don't trust people with their engineering.
Right.
I'm not an engineer, but I didn't do a bad job on this place.
Right. You learned something.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, that's what the project is. And that pool for the tilapia, I will want to eventually make it out of concrete that with the Revoltech that I use, which is a repellent, you actually put that in the concrete. You don't need, it's a sealant itself.
Right.
So the concrete itself will hold the water and it won't erode. See what I'm saying?
But your
Right.
steel
And so-
bars are like your backbone, your spine.
Yeah,
your-
exactly.
you know what I
It's
mean?
all filled with the
You're
rebar.
putting in that
Absolutely.
reinforcement, and that's
For
Well,
otherwise it'll
over
just
there in
collapse.
Southeast Asia, they just dug a pit in the ground, like a swimming pool, and they
Right,
lined
yeah.
it with plastic, filled
Yes.
it with water, and grew the tilapia in there. They didn't have to worry about erosion. They didn't have to worry about anything.
True.
They just had the. They just had
That's
the
what I'm going to do right now. That's what I said about the tarp. That's what I'm
Yeah.
going to do right now until I get to the point where I can do it out of concrete.
Yeah,
Why?
yeah.
Because with concrete, you can actually control the effluents
Yes.
and the garbage and everything
Far
else.
better
a lot
control. Yeah, I agree with you.
well, especially if you're going to utilize those fish for eating, right? You want something a little
That's
bit more
the
permanent, more
ultimate
clean, more,
objective.
Yeah.
to-
Well, that's
to
why we
feed
use
everybody.
swimming pools in Arizona, and you would drain the swimming pool like 3/4 of the way, or just down to where the deep end had water in it, right? And so you could walk into there, and that was what they did. What we did was the swimming pool had the tilapia, and then you filtered it with not by the swimming pool filter
Right.
because that means you have to have it full, but you filtered it, and then of course the chicken coop was above, and they could run around and poop through the chicken wire into the water. The fish ate that. They grew tilapia in there. They dropped some tilapia in the water. The fish ate that. Take the tilapia and feed it to the chickens. They ate that. Pull the tilapia
Right.
out, make a salad out of it. We eat that, right? So
The tilapia is the fish. You're talking about the duckweed.
I'm sorry, the duckweed. I said tilapia. The duckweed. You grow the
Yeah,
duckweed.
you
give it
were
to the
getting me
tilapia, you give the
confused. I'm like,
duckweed to the chickens,
you were
and then
you
we
were
eat it.
feeding the
Yeah.
tilapia to the tilapia, and you were
Right,
feeding
I
the
meant
tilapia
duckweed.
to the chickens.
Yeah,
I'm
meant
like,
duckweed.
I didn't
Well,
know
you
that they were
can
carnivores.
feed chicken to chickens, and
Yeah,
chickens love it. I
Yes.
mean that in the egg sense. You can fucking crush up their shells. They will eat, and they get all that vitamin, but they love it.
Oh, but that's right. Yeah, because that's one of the
mean-
things that I want about chickens because I need eggs. We eat a lot of eggs here, and so eggs are
But the
crucial.
chickens love those eggs
And
too.
then use the chicken shit to feed.
Well,
the
yeah,
tilapia.
I'm not going to eat the shell. I'll crush up the shell and I'll give it to the chickens, and that'll be
Right.
fucking perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my grandma, she always
When you
used
start to
to,
figure all that stuff out, you can
all
become very
leftovers. My
sustainable.
grandma would toss them over to the chickens.
I used to
Zadie.
take the shells when I was working out, and I would be making shakes. I would just take the egg and drop it in the and grind it all up and drink it with the
Ooh.
shake.
Yeah,
With
that's a
shell
bit
in it.
much.
It's a
That's
lot
a
of
bit much.
medicine. It
Good
really
amount of
is. I
calcium.
use it in
People
like
take
a lot of
calcium
shells, and then
pills.
I'll powder it up for other
Eggshell
things.
is 100% calcium.
Yep.
Same thing
Sure.
they're grinding up. They grind that shit up and they put it in a capsule for you, and then you take it in powder form. It's the same thing. That's why they take
See, I don't
Diamastix
take the powder
Earth.
form.
in Diamescus Earth is the fossils of sea urchins, which is bone. And they grind that up to a powder and people put it in their energy drinks. It's the same thing.
Well, why do you think they ask what came first, the chicken or the egg?
Right. Yeah, well, that's one of those things you can't have.
Because
one
really,
without
it's
the
like
other, right?
this little
Yeah.
cyclical thing that is, I mean,
Yeah.
really.
It would be the egg, because the one that laid the egg wasn't necessarily a chicken. It was something that was adapting to a chicken form.
Perhaps.
The egg came out as the chicken, the first one of the species
Right,
that would be
evolution from
reared.
the
Right?
Velociraptor down to the chicken.
Exactly. And there was something that wasn't a chicken that laid an egg that became a chicken.
Yep.
Right.
And then the chicken laid the egg that became more chickens. And
Well,
then
because
that's
anything
what
that
got
can
us.
impregnate anything, and let's be real about this, us humans are mixed
Yeah, that's
for
a good idea.
generations,
Well, but then
right?
again, at that
Well,
point,
you can
what
make
came
many
first, the
things.
chicken? Okay, well, in
Absolutely.
the creation story, what came first, the chicken or the egg? It's a chicken, because the chicken was created first. All the animals were created, and then they had their own ways of procreating. So it depends on which theories you want to follow, but yeah,
Right.
it's all good.
Right?
It's all good.
Which is why an open mind is always the best mind.
Right.
If I believe this one
Hopefully it
thing,
must be.
how fucked am I going to believe trying to believe something else? Right? If I can understand that
If you can
something
comprehend,
yes,
Yeah.
comprehend.
Right.
I know.
If
I
can
used to
understand or I
understand
can
so much as a
comprehend,
kid.
yeah,
This one's going to be hard for
because
me.
you
guys.
don't stand under anyone.
But no, if you can understand like the whole cyclical cycle of like life and the way it works and the way it and really, when you take those types of riddles and you can understand that, well, both, right?
Yeah.
A chicken can lay an egg, but it took an egg to get the chicken.
okay. Well, at that point, we get into Schrodinger's cat. Okay,
Yeah.
is the cat alive or dead? Well,
Right.
technically, he's both. Because in the
In a
quantum
wave
multiverse,
superposition state between alive and dead, and you won't know the difference until you
I
actually
can be
open
dead,
it
but
and
I'm
observe
still
it.
vibrating. I'm
no, but
still
in-
moving.
hold
I'm
on, but
still
what I'm-
doing
what I'm
this whole
trying-
different cycle, right?
what
of
I'm trying to say,
decomposition.
Norma, is this: that all the states exist.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not whether it's either or; they all exist. It just
Exactly.
it depends which one we choose to accept at that moment. That it becomes real for us,
Right.
and the other one becomes real in another dimensional, parallel dimension that carries on the multiverse and another version of yourself that shows the
Right.
other thing.
Yeah, that's the
Okay, so-
theory of Schrodinger's
Well,
cat.
But
which is
they
why I
all
said,
exist.
yes, everything vibrates.
Is
What
that every
seems
single
to us in our
possibility
reality as
is a
dead
reality?
and gone
It can
is
be a
still
reality.
vibrating in what
Yeah.
we conceive as decomposition. But
Yeah.
somewhere else, it is actually bringing life, right? And life is forming and becoming something else. When you understand that it is never we're not going from here to here. We are like always. We are 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 always. Right.
Right, but that's exactly
You
what
can
we're
leave
talking about. That's
yourself-
what the theory is of Schrodinger's cat. Is that literally that cat is alive and dead at the exact same
Yes.
time, and everywhere in between, and it only becomes reality when you
When
observe
you
it.
open the
Then
box.
Fit in a certain
then
way.
it's 50-50.
Right.
Then
When
you
open the box,
accept
you don't know.
the dichotomy. You
And then it
accept the
becomes
on or off.
Pandora's box. Once you open it, you can't close it because
You can't
see
close
the
it back
thing.
up.
Yeah,
Exactly. You already let it out. You already know what it is, so you can't actually
yeah.
contemplate
Then
the other
it
possibilities.
disappears. Then it becomes one or the other because
But
you
hold
open
on.
it,
That's
you
what I
observe
was talking about, the Harpazio thing that when I was explaining to another friend of mine, Andre Little, about us going through the Great Filter. Why that in Schrodinger's cat, they are both dead and alive. But when you open it and you see that the cat's alive, and you're going, "Oh, nice kitty," the dead cat exists in another quantum multiverse. And another version of you open the box and says, "Oh, poor kitty."
Right.
And that one goes on, and that multiverse exists the same as yours.
Yes.
However, you chose it, disappeared. That option disappeared for you. It no longer exists because
Right.
your reality has now quantum fixated on a certain path.
However,
The
all
same
is
thing-
now. It's
The
all
same
happening.
thing will happen during the Great Filter,
We just
because
perceive
those that are
it,
actually,
not happening right now.
what will happen is those that are in the third dimension will remain in the third dimension and will not be able to go past the filter. Those that do have the ability to
See it.
think
recognize
above the dimension and accept it,
Yeah.
that
Be
reality as it
objective
comes.
to the knowledge instead of subjective to
Exactly.
reality.
Now, what happens is all the rest will simply disappear, and you will be part of that new reality. And to those that stayed in the third, what will happen is you will disappear.
Yeah.
because
Yes,
you are
the
no
left
longer
behind
part
thing.
of
The
that.
left behind thing doesn't happen that's a matter of perspective, right? You're only left behind if you're still in the place and you chose not to go to the other place. If you go to the
Exactly.
other place, you're not left behind. Nobody's left behind. The people who are left behind
Exactly.
aren't there anymore. They're the ones that disappeared.
Exactly. And so the thing is, they will simply disappear because their frequency is on another plane when that decision in this solar system going through the galactic equator had to be made. You know, it's the dawning of the age of Aquarius, whatever. We want to go from the
Yeah, whatever you want,
1960s.
whatever
However,
spirituality you want to put the name
that
on.
time is actually here. Yes, all times happen at the same time, but the one that we experience and we realize is the one right now.
Yes.
There is a past, there is a future, and there are
But there's
multiple
not really.
futures.
It's all like right
And
now. It's where
Well,
your
it is.
vibration. Now,
It
here's the
is,
thing.
problem.
but it
Every
isn't.
problem
choice I could
is
possibly make
the
is in the existence
No,
somewhere.
every choice that you
However,
could possibly
but
make
here's
that you've
but here's
already
the thing,
made.
Norma. You need to understand that in this place you don't perceive it that way. I agree
Right.
with you because in
Exactly.
reality
Yes.
it is there in every possible thought
Yeah.
that you could
It's
ever
just one
imagine.
dimension away.
But it's
Is
always
there
happening
side
right
by
now.
side or up, whatever, a layer
I
this way,
might-
layer that way, however you want
Yes.
to put it.
Well, see,
The
here's the way I
vibration
see
is
it.
slightly
I
different.
might like line up my timelines and be experiencing in one
Yeah, that's called
physical
deja vu.
form this whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Or I might understand and still be kind of fragmented out in all these different places. Some people will tell you, "Oh my God, I woke up and I'm like I feel like and they get that because
Yep.
they all of a sudden matched up timelines and now they're, you know what I mean? But for
Well,
other
your
people, they don't
vibration
always
gets to the
experience that.
point,
Why?
like
Because
Mike was
they're
saying,
still choosing to
you
kind
get
of
above
fragment.
this plane's vibration, and
Yeah.
that's when and that's the stuff that I do when I'm teaching people how to get that meditation of removing yourself from the thinking mind and the egoic mind, the
Yes.
process. They can't reach you there. When you're in that place, like you said, everything is now because you're
Yes.
outside of this time.
That's right.
Right. So there's no longer a separation. And so you can perceive that, like you said, some people wake up and go, wow, because they get it and they perceive it. But
Yep.
then this area tries to pull us back down.
Yes.
Your ego wants to pull you back down, our society, the
Ego.
powers that should not be, the egoic
Right.
television, the egoic internet tries to pull you back down into this plane where there's a separation because here's
Right.
where everybody's stuck. So I agree
Right.
with you. It is all there. And I wish everybody got it because we wouldn't be stuck anymore.
Well, because here's the thing. Even I don't feel like I have matched up with every one of my timelines yet. I feel like
none
I
of us-
know a lot of
Here
things.
it's hard to do
come to
because of
certain
how
things.
separated
But
we are.
sorry,
understand
you're
myself.
sorry, Norma. You can never mash up with all your timelines because quantumly speaking, there are billions of you,
That's
and
true.
you would be absolutely insane if you knew all of the things
You would be the
that
one.
all of you know.
Only the
and
one
you-
true creator can actually perceive all of that at once.
I mean,
And
and
that
that's
is-
true.
but
I guess
see,
I
it all
becomes-
broadened that
But it all
statement.
becomes snow. It all becomes noise.
Yes. Yes.
Because
Which
that's
is why,
why-
I also explain so
That's
much.
why. But
Understanding
that
you're
is exactly
human.
why each one of us was created, so we could perceive that reality from a
Yes.
different perspective
Record
and say
it and
thank
send it
you.
home. Yes.
Which
And
is why I
send-
say
and send
understanding
the thank
your
you home
particular
for the
human and
present
how
that it
your
gave us.
mind works and how you perceive and how you in your human. And I know a lot of people like to think I'm like teaching ego, but no. What I want you to understand is how your machine, your biological avatar is working.
Yeah.
Because if you don't,
I like that
Right.
you may
biological
never
avatar.
understand why this
No, isn't that
particular
great?
thing keeps bothering you or why this, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Really understanding your avatar
Yep.
this time in this
Yep.
lifetime, no matter how many lifetimes you match up with, no matter how much you remember, no matter
Right.
what
Right.
who you're
The only moment
Your-
that matters
you know what I
is
mean?
now.
understanding
others-
that now,
All of the
is what
lives
gives
that you
you
had
the
before.
power to truly transform,
Yes.
work within, be in the current of, right?
Yep.
Really find the way within
Because
yourself.
if you don't handle your shit here to figure that out and understand
Yes.
or understand
Well,
Too
because
fucking
I
late,
know
you
people
can't
who
go
remember
anywhere.
something that
you'll never
happened,
vibrate
like,
at that higher level. Agreed.
10 lifetimes ago, but
Yeah.
in this life, something happened to me to trigger that trauma.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, but
I
however,
can't just go
that's
through
some,
a life being all traumatic when nothing happened to me. Come on, let's be real. We are living
okay.
in
However,
a living
however,
avatar that must experience something to understand it. Whether
Right.
it's something mental, physical, emotional, does not matter. Something
spiritual.
happened within this lifetime to trigger whatever it was that maybe you were dealing with
Yes,
for multiple lives.
yes, it did. Fine. In part, that is part of the reason why you're here, to actually experience that, learn from that. And it's
Yeah,
not the
that's the
fact that you
experience.
experienced it.
Yep.
It's the fact of how you deal with it, how you go
Yes.
forward, and how you can make positive energy resonate from a negative situation. What can it
Exactly.
teach you? How can you be better? How can you make sure that that doesn't happen to other people?
That's the
How
Exactly.
can
Tao
you
Te
make
Ching,
sure that
that's
it
the
doesn't happen to you
Zen,
again?
that's Buddhism, even the Christ, following Christ, Christianity was the same, with that way of realizing it, experiencing it, being objective about it,
Right.
like when Norma was saying,
Negative will
get it.
happen to us. It will be in us, but
Yeah.
it's up to
Yes.
us to not let that negativity out.
Right.
We
To
can't let
truly,
the anger explode into the multiverse because
and
there's
trust me, I'm
enough
a cancer.
anger there.
I'm
Yeah.
fire
Yeah,
all the
we
way.
can't pent
So
it up and go "Urgh," and dig it in,
exactly.
because it will eat you up inside. You
Sometimes I
have
gotta
to
go out to the
deal with
forest
it.
and just scream.
Right?
Really. Like
Sometimes
I've
you have to
gotta,
have that
you know,
release.
I know
Agreed.
I can't take what I'm feeling out on those near me because I mean, come on, I'm just
Yeah,
experiencing my thing.
exactly. But
Hard time
even
experiencing it.
even
I
then,
gotta go
you
out in the
going.
woods and just give it to nature. And
Yeah.
nature
Yeah,
will
however,
usually
you are
tell
still
and show you.
putting that karmic energy into even the nature,
Well,
because you are
but nature likes
the
to
whole.
eat that up and bring it out into oxygen.
I get you, Norma, but what I'm trying to get to the point of, Norma, focus.
Yes.
What I'm trying to get to the point of is the fact that you need to scream at all,
Yeah. Yes. Well,
because
that's
dealing
just
with
it.
that so that you don't have to explode, so that you don't have to, let
Yes.
all of that anger out into any multiverse, whether or not,
Right.
I did
Yeah.
that because I was pissed at my teachers when I was in high school and right before football. And the reason I played football is because I had to vent all that anger. But
Yeah.
right beforehand, I had that teacher said one thing, I had the steel locker, and I would punch that damn thing before class.
Right.
After each class, I'd slam it shut and punch it. At the end of the day, there was a dent in that steel fucking locker.
Right.
And I still went to play football, and I still rode my bike to another friend's house because my parents were gone, and I had to go, instead of Richardson, I had to go to Plano. So it was another 45 minutes by bike. When I got home, my hand was huge.
Swollen.
Yeah.
All right. There was another time that a boss actually, cut 3 imports that I was supposed to make, and I was going to make commission off all that. And he told me I should have thought about that before. That was during the great chaos of 2008, the financial crash and everything else, right? And instead of exploding onto his face, I went out to a trash container, those big,
Yep.
dumpster things, and I started to kick it, but there was a curb behind me, so I couldn't get that energy out. And so I was just going to jab it a little bit. And I was just boom, boom, just tapping the end because I knew it was going to, steel's harder than me, fine. And that last one, I was just going to give it one last oomph to make sure I got it out. And I dislocated my finger.
Well, see, and
Right?
that's
So I
kind of
think
the whole
the
thing
fact that
about
I-
understanding.
the fact
Yes,
But the fact that I
understanding
needed
like
to
where
get that
your
out,
physical energy needs to be directed, especially in these times of emotion, right? Is something none of us are taught growing up. I mean,
Right.
dealing with all
today's
that.
things is
See,
therapy, but
I want to
for
get
me,
that
at
out.
least,
That's why I played football and was violent. But the
right.
thing is, we
Well,
need to
see, and that's
understand
but
But see,
that
it all
we don't
goes,
need
you
to
have
let
to
it out.
excess
understand,
energy,
you have
right?
to
You still
understand
had
that
a
it all
lot more
goes back
energy.
to, your state of mind. The fact
Yeah.
that you were manifesting that negative energy, you were actually putting it in yourself and saying, I have it, I accept it, but now I have to let it out because I have this rage. That
Right.
is going down the dark path. Fear, anger,
Yep.
aggression is the dark path. So the key to not doing any of that is not exploding because I just have to let it out. The key is, Norma's trying to say this, the key is you're supposed to cut it off from the beginning and
Yeah.
not allow that to start. That's
Yes.
the key. You're not supposed to manifest this hate or this anger inside of you, and then you have to let it out because you're angry. The whole
Right.
key is peace. If you are working on yourself and you're working inside yourself and working with and being honest and objective with your shadow work, all of that anger goes away.
Right.
And you no longer manifest that. No matter what anybody says to you, no matter what they do to you, you can go, no, I'm not going to choose to
Right.
get angry. I'm not going to choose to have
Well,
to have
you have
something
a
that I
new
have to let out.
understanding of
That's
it, right?
ego.
You have a different perspective now. You can kind of see it from that space of, oh my God, this is meant to make me upset.
You
Why?
look and go, this
And why do I
person's
need
trying
to
to
be
piss
upset?
me off.
And when it's
They're
upset,
trying to
it's
say
bringing me.
words that will
But we're
make
all
me
human, and
angry.
it takes a
You
long time
understand?
for many of us to get to that space. So I'm not there yet.
No. Everybody's a work in progress. I'm not saying you can't make me mad, but
Right.
it happens a lot less than it did 20 years
Yes,
ago
yes.
because I understand that.
Many easy
Somebody will say
triggers are
something and
now.
I'll go, okay,
Yeah.
these are words they're trying to say to make me mad. I'm not going to get mad. I've refused to allow those words to have any merit or meaning. So there is no emotion attached to that, the one, especially the one they're trying to project, because people know that we all have these things that we get keyed on,
Yep.
right? That we have already pre-programmed in our brain. We've talked about this before. In America, we teach children, women, immediately, if anyone says the C word, you explode and go fucking crazy. And so that's programmed in their brain, just waiting for someone to say that word because it's a trigger. And that's what's happening now
But then
in
you also have the
politics.
personality types, and for some people that trigger is now anger and like I have a reason to be upset, and for others it's well guess what? Yep, I got myself, cunt. What you can do about it?
Right. And then
But hold on, even that is a response. They call you
right,
something,
to
and you're
ignore
like,
it completely,
Yeah.
to ignore it completely pisses other people off. So you have to understand that or understand that. I've done that to where when you don't fight some people, they get even more mad because
Right.
you're not wanting to fight them. They say these words
Yep.
and you just go, oh, okay, are you done? Okay, so can we move on as an adult? I've done that. Can we have
Exactly.
a conversation now as an adult? Blah!
Right.
Because in their mind, you attack them now.
okay, but see, at that point, if it gets physical, then you let them come in and you just meet them with a left hook. Period.
See, then that is
I mean, I mean-
the violence. You're missing the entire point by having that.
I know,
mindset.
but exactly. But if they get,
Well, no,
if you
sometimes
drive
it
them
does
to
come
that
to that.
point,
Ultimately,
then you have to be able to. But yeah, I would like
if
to
you take
avoid
the
the violence.
Shaolin, or if you take the Shaolin, or a lot of other martial arts thought process, you just redirect them, let them wear themselves out. Eventually,
Yep.
they're not, and you don't have to hit them. You
Absolutely.
don't have to be forceful to
Let them
win.
use
That's
their
part of the
own
art of war,
language
bro.
against themselves. You're using.
Yeah.
I
cause and
know,
effect.
but I know that I hit if I hit them with a left hook as they're coming in at me, in a panic and a blind rage, I'll knock them out in an instant, and the whole fucking thing's
Right,
over
then the
with.
fig's over, and you don't have to worry
And
about
then
it.
the
I agree
button,
with
you
you.
put it
I
right
agree. I'm
there.
not saying that I
I
don't have
just
those instincts.
cut it off at the beginning,
Right, because
they're
if you're
coming
in
and
martial arts,
boom.
most
And
martial arts
sometimes,
teach
yep.
you that no matter what. Even in the waiting for somebody to attack, even with Krav Maga. Krav Maga's
Right.
whole idea is as soon as they attack you, use their shit against them, and then beat them to death in their face, right, or whatever. You know what I mean? Break their shit off as fast as you can.
Well, here's the
I
thing:
agree.
is if I'm in touch with my own energy, and I can understand the only way to stop this thing is get it done.
Yeah.
Guess what I'm going to do? Because I understand the
but-
best way to get this
yeah.
done is boom, get it done,
Exactly.
and then maybe we
that's-
can talk when you wake up. Because
No.
You
Sorry.
got boom.
That's what you misunderstand. Because after it's done, there ain't no talk because it's their lawyers talking to your lawyers, and
well,
your
now
life
in this
has
day and
fucking
age,
changed.
yes, you're right.
No,
Yeah.
not this day and age. I grew up. My father did that. My father never hit first. That he
Right.
would mouth off first. He would piss people off first. And when they went to the physical, he finished it off. And it was usually one or two punches, and it was fucking over. All right. And I, as a kid growing up, saw that and said, "Oh, well, yeah, that fixes it." But okay, does it really? And so
Right.
I've been in two fights my entire life. One defending a girl, which is bullshit because in the end she wasn't even grateful for it, and so fuck that shit. And another one that I don't even. Oh, that one even wasn't a fight. They were trying to bully me in a new school. I was in Mexico City, and I said, "All right, I'll meet you out in the courtyard at half an hour after class." They never showed up, and I just shoved it in their face the rest of the time. Don't tell
Right.
me anything. I was there. You chickened out. The thing is, I try and avoid them at the most. Why? Not because I'm a coward, because I know it's destructive. Either I'm going to hurt them, or if they get
Or
hurt,
I'm going to
they'll
get
come
hurt,
after.
right? I mean,
My,
either way.
one of the guys actually lied in court and falsified evidence and everything else, and my dad had to pay what at that point was the equivalent of a luxury vehicle. Back in the late 1970s, he had to give what was a Lincoln Town Car as to
Collateral.
appease the guy because he punched him because he was coming after him with a monkey wrench. So you learn that all of those things they might feel good in the
don't, yeah.
short term, but in
Right.
the long term, it's bad fucking juju the whole way
Right.
through.
Right.
And so you try and make
Fear,
a peaceful
anger, aggression
revolution.
leads to the dark
Right.
side.
Which is why I
It
said you
leads
have
to
to really
hate
be
and
able to
anger and
feel like
destruction.
if I knock them out for a minute, I can talk to them when they get up, right?
No, there is no
But
talking
you don't
afterwards
want to
because
have to
then it's
do
just
that.
anger.
Yeah, then it's just anger.
Yeah.
If you do
Right?
that, there was these guys when I was living down the Bay Area, and
I don't know
these
about
guys
that.
were
I've seen
walking
people
through the
walking around
neighborhood, and they were
with
gangbangers. They're
like
walking through the
serious
neighborhood,
defense.
and my roommate, she was coming home from work, and her boyfriend was with her, met her at the house, and these guys started giving the boyfriend a hard time. So she ran in the house and said to me, "Leo, Paul's about to get into a fight, and there's all kinds of dudes." And I ran out there. And when I went out there, I went up next to him, and she came back, and she was thinking at that point that Paul and I were going to beat these guys up. And Paul was like, "You guys just need to get out of here, bro. Just walk, step, get out of here." And I just stood there with him. I'm like, waiting. If they're going to fight, I'm going to help, him not to
Right.
get his ass kicked by 5 guys. So, but they kept just talking shit, but they didn't do anything. They were across the street. And so I was like, okay, these guys don't really want to fight it. They'd already
Right.
be over here.
They
So
just
he was
wanna be
like, just
assholes.
step, get out of here. And so finally they're flipping him off and all this, and they walked around the corner, but they kept leaving. So we just waited till we couldn't see him anymore. And she goes, "Why didn't you guys go over there and beat him up? I know that you and Leo could have taken all 5 of those guys."
Yeah.
He says, "If we'd have done that, they would have came back tonight when we were sleeping, and they would have
Yep.
done damage to the
Yep.
cars, if not through shit, and
Yep.
caught the house on fire."
Exactly.
All they
Exactly.
were doing was
When you
was
can
just
avoid
live
it,
and
you
live and live.
avoid it.
Yeah.
Yes. It
Yeah.
is only when
Because-
your gut is telling you, I have to
When you
strike
have no
here.
other
No, and
Right.
even when your gut
But you
tells
should
you can't.
never, ever,
Even
it should
when you're-
never be like an instinctive move to
No,
strike on
you
anyone.
you can never, even when your gut tells you you should should not.
Well, yes, you
because
should
your
be at
gut-
a point
your-
in yourself.
No,
where peace
your
enough to
gut
know
will
what other
always
actions
give you.
can
Your
make.
gut will always
to
give
realize
you a
your
bad
ego is going to
response. You
say
got to
fight.
think about that shit.
Your ego
You
is
got
going
to
to
think
say
long
fight
fucking
and
term.
beat this guy's ass or this woman. That's what your
Well,
ego
no,
is going
I
to
get
tell
Think
you.
of somebody that's very like I'm very peace loving. I used to get
Yeah.
in fight. Me and my brother.
I'm
used to
not.
get knocked
I
down,
played
drag out
football
fight.
because I love to beat the fuck out of people. That's
Right.
why I played football.
However,
Me
and
too.
I am the way I am that way. I am like let's conflict resolution first.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
let's make sure that's and it usually works. Like actually,
Yes,
most
agreed.
of the time you don't have to use
Right?
force.
Exactly.
Agreed.
Your force is your
That's the
mind.
point. That's
Yeah.
what
Like
Mike's
how
point
you-
he's trying to drive home.
Right.
Is that
right.
you should never
right.
be thinking that you have to, and don't listen to
Right.
your ego.
Right.
Your ego is going to say, "I know that I have the skills. I've been in martial arts because I was in martial arts
Yeah.
starting it at the age of 8." Right.
But it's
So
not till
no, I
someone's
know
right
I
in
can
my
kick this
face,
guy's
man,
ass.
and I gotta
But
fucking
the
Yep.
art, the
do a little
whole
something,
art
something
form
before
of
we
martial arts in the discipline isn't. And if you, unless you're listening to Cobra Kai, which there are a bunch of people who fight just like that. That was the whole dichotomy of
Right.
that movie. Was that some people are aggressive and they teach aggressive martial arts, and then Mr. Miyagi-Do style of Korean jiu-jitsu was avoidance, was not to
Right.
fight unless you have no other recourse whatsoever.
Right.
You're backed into a corner.
And
Right.
then you pulverize the motherfucker.
Yes, and that's basically what I'm saying.
Out of
Unless you
necessity,
really
not
absolutely,
out of
there's no
choice.
way out of this. I
Desire.
gotta
But
knock
see,
this
but see,
motherfucker out.
hold on. There was this old saying that somebody actually repeated. I don't remember who it was, Mel Gibson or somebody else. But
Ariel, I love Ariel's quoting Kenny Rogers now. No when
Exactly.
to walk away, no when to run. She says,
Yeah.
I love it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Gonzo started that one off.
That's
and
what
it
you
was
hold
him, no way to
You
great.
never
fold
count your money when you're sitting at the table,
That's
right?
right.
Ariel, I love
Absolutely.
that. It was great. Perfect.
Absolutely. But what happens is that
She did say, Gonzo said it. Look, you never count your
Exactly.
money when you're sitting at the table.
Yeah.
There'll be time enough for counting when the
when
dealing's
the dealing's
done.
done, absolutely,
Yeah.
you let it just flow by.
I love it.
And that's the whole. Now I forgot what I was talking about.
Yeah.
I couldn't help
Kenny
myself.
Rogers
That was
is
No, it was hilarious and it was awesome and I used to love Kenny Rogers when I was 7-8 years old. We'd go to the Colorado Rockies and we'd be listening to Kenny Rogers and Denver, John Denver, and all that kind of shit.
Right. And Kathy, most of us were. She said I was a rumbler. I'd kick ass, right? In a heartbeat. I was the same way. I grew up in martial arts. I grew up like Mike playing football. I love playing defense because I could just crush the motherfucking quarterback and
Oh,
the
yeah.
fucking running back. Right?
Oh, yeah.
United.
Absolutely.
I get
And
really
you know
upset
when
with
the
things.
when the
I hit
receiver's got his
balls.
arms like this and you can crack him right in the ribs,
Take it out somewhere
and even
else.
better if you can take him off the
Right.
down and pile drive him in.
Right.
Ooh, when you hear that bone crack, you're like, ha.
Yep. I almost lost I almost got my arm broken, got it dislocated because I jumped up to catch a football over the top of a guy, and he just reached up and grabbed my arm and jammed it down on his pads and caught my elbow on his
Yep.
pads. Was about to dislocate my arm, so it was either let go of the football and let him catch it, or break my arm. I let him catch it. Right?
Yeah.
Where did Aaron and Norma just popped off? I don't know where
They just popped off. I don't know what happened there.
Oh, okay. Sorry. They excused themselves for a moment. Okay, so they'll be back in a minute. Okay. So, but you have to fight sometimes against your instincts. Kathy said she was the same way. I was the same way.
This was the saying. Now I finally remembered the saying that I wanted to get to. It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Yes, agreed.
Okay? So if you go in all passive and you don't know, oh, nobody's going to harm anything, and then we all got to be wallflowers,
right, you'll get nothing but killed.
You'll get fucking slaughtered.
Yeah.
Now, if you know how to fucking break their knees, gut them, and do everything you have to, but you have the self-control to say, I could, but I choose not to, run your fucking mouth, asswipe.
Yeah.
But you come at me, you're done. That's the whole thing. But it's also not putting off that aggressive and anger. It's just the confidence of knowing that you can. That's why I studied martial arts. Because I also did Taekwondo, I did karate, I did Kung Fu, and Jiu-Jitsu. So, there's when you know you can, you don't have to prove it.
Right. There's nothing to prove. You don't have to. And
I don't need to beat this guy's ass to know that I can beat this guy's ass, because I already know I can beat this guy's ass. I'm looking at him, I can fucking tell.
You know what? I've actually said that to somebody when one time I was pulling up, and it was just a stupid thing, but it was like what was that? The thorax. The two guys are walking in the middle of nowhere, and they meet each other, and neither one will move. I was coming in a way that he was trying to go out, which was an illegal move for him to go out, because it was a way for you to come in to this gas station, but he decided he wanted to go out that way. So I was pulling in, and he pulled up in front of me, and he stopped, and I was like, dude, move. I can't, he's like, back up, right? Because I'd have to back all the way around the building back out to the street now. And I was like, what do you mean back up? This is a thoroughfare to come in to the gas station, not go out. This is an entrance, not an exit. I'm like, move out of the way. And he's like, fuck you, I'm not moving. So I was like, look, is that what you want to do? And he's like, motherfucker, I'll kick your ass. I used to do this and this and this for the government. So I got out of my car. I walked over. He got out of his car now, and he's all, ooh, oh, oh. And I said, okay, listen, here's the things that can happen here, okay? We can do this, in which case I'm going to beat your ass in front of your wife and all of these people, and you're going to look stupid. Secondly, I'm not going to be the first one to swing, so I will be defending myself. Why I know that's going to happen is that I know that you're too stupid not to. Your arrogance right now tells me that you're looking for a fight to impress someone. I don't know anyone here, so I have no one to impress. So if you want to fight, and he says, well, I have to let you know that I know martial arts. And I said, well, I have to let you know that I used to kill people for the federal government of the United States and the federal government of England. And he goes, you didn't do that. And I said, I love it when people don't believe me. Okay, so are we going to dance? Because if we are, I got shit to do. I'm trying to get gas, and I can do it right now. I'm going to beat your ass in front of your wife, back your car up. I'm going to pull in, get gas, call the police, go in, get my shit, come out, give a police report. You're going to jail. It's your choice. And he goes, you really think you can kick my ass? I said, hey, you're the one that's still talking, bro. I'm here. I'm telling you, let's do this. So, challenger, if you think you can take on the champion, come at me, bitch. Otherwise, get in your car and back the fuck up.
Come at me, dog.
Help me, dog. His wife said, get in the fucking car before I let him kick your ass. That's what he says. What she said. Get in the fucking car before I tell him to kick your ass, is the second thing she said. And then I said, you better listen to your wife, because she pretty much knows your skill level, doesn't she? And he's like, no, fuck you, dude. Fuck you, dude. He gets in his car. He backs up. I go and get mine. I pull over to the gas station. I get out to everybody clapping.
Why? Because no cops were called, no blood was spilled, and nobody's nose got cracked.
Right.
And that's the whole fucking point.
Right.
It can be de-escalated. My kids complain about me because I was out here, and I can look at the home theater where the TV and the game systems were set up and everything else. And so they'd be playing there, and I'd be listening to them, and I'd be watching them. But whenever I heard that resonance, that vibration, their volume level start to go up, I was like, all right, shit's going down. And so I would go in there, and I'd just give them a bark. Why? To give them a heads up to break whatever focus they had at that moment and turn the focus on me. Right. And then I'd calmly ask them, what's going on, guys? See, everybody remembers the bark. Oh, Dad, you always came in angry. You always came in when we were fighting. You always came in screaming. No, I'd give them a bark to make sure that they'd stop whatever level of energy was building up at that moment. Because I knew I could hear it in the resonance that in the next couple of instances, somebody was going to hit somebody else, and it's usually going to be the bigger one to the smaller one to show him who's boss.
Right.
And those were, those culminating moments to where they had to figure it out instead of fighting it out, or one being bullied and one being the bully, and one learning bullying and other is a good thing, and another one going that oh, life is full of bullies and everything else. No, I wanted them to learn. You talk it out, you figure out what's going on, okay, and we figure out what's going on. Now, they would all tell me different stories. They would both have their own version of the story, obviously.
Yeah.
But then you find a way to where they can continue playing or not destroying shit
I
or
tell
each other.
everybody, I love that you brought that up, because I tell people this when you're looking at politics and you're talking, people like now where you have BLM, and then you have other people in there, everyone's just yelling past one another. Everybody paints themselves always, and no matter what happens. So you have the Democrats painting themselves as a victim. You have the Republicans painting themselves as a victim. You started it. No, you did it first. No, you did it in 1862. No, it was 1753 when you guys did it the first time. We're just doing it because you did it, and they're doing it because you did. They're propagating the whole thing. So I always tell everybody, look, you have to look at this that goes on between this banter, this yelling past each other, like two children. Like if you have kids, and there's the scenario Mike explains, you hear the conflict, you don't give a crap. The truth is, you don't give a crap who hit who first, because when you go in there, each one is going to say the other one did it. I'm the victim. That one did it first. No, I'm the victim. That one did it first. So you know that that's going to be a lie. Both sides are going to tell a lie, telling and making themselves the victim. Police do this. That's why they separate people, and they have them ask the story, and then they switch cops and have them ask the story again to find out if they tell the same story to each cop.
What's the most
and
consistent
then you get
between
together,
the two?
and what you do is you figure out the truth. Like you said, you find that common ground. Now you get the true story of what actually happened. What actually happened is a fight broke out, and they were fighting each other, and you stopped it, or one was about to break out. You heard it, and you stopped it. So now you have the ability, as the adult in the room, to then say, okay, look, here's where we're going to compromise. You guys are going to knock your crap off, and you're going to get along, right?
Yeah.
But if you go in there thinking one of them is going to actually tell you what really happened, unless you have that third kid who is the one that always tattles on everybody and tells you what actually happened.
And he's a little slime ball that becomes a politician in the end.
It grows up to be a lawyer or a politician, right? No joke, right? But I mean, that's the truth of that, unfortunately. But you have to, or however, you have
Vibrate
to.
at a higher level.
Yes, you have to vibrate at that higher level and be that adult in the room for real, not
That's
fake
the
woke,
higher level.
but actually awoke, and that's your vibration going back on point. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And well, vibration always also has to do with birds of a feather flock together, something that my father always told me. And something that I was talking about on the program last night after mine as well, that people resonate with each other. It's those vibrational levels to where you feel that you're in sync. You feel that things are there, they're good, and they're building. And there are situations where people aren't in sync. Those resonances are completely off, and you can feel it. Simply being in the presence of those individuals it's off. It's not that it's better or worse. It's just different. It doesn't resonate with you. It's on a different resonant frequency. It's like trying to tune in 102 FM when your dial's on 107.
Right.
You're not going to.
You're in the wrong place, wrong vibration.
Exactly. And if you get into, if you're looking at 102.3 and you're on 102.5, you're going to get it, but it's going to be really off and buggy and not clear. You're going to have a lot of snow.
Yeah, you're going to be able to sense it. It's there, but you can't quite make it all the way out. It's not clear yet, and that's because it's not tuned in properly.
Exactly, and whenever you're listening to a band to where they're off key, somebody's playing off key, you feel that in the music, and it just gets with you. You're like,
there's a car commercial here in America.
No, that didn't push good.
There's a car. I don't remember what car it was, but there's a car commercial, and the woman is sitting in the car, and she's actually in the studio where the kids are in the class, and they're all young kids between like 8 and 12, and they're trying to play Amazing Grace. And there's like 2 kids out of the entire orchestra that's actually on tune, and all the rest of them are hideously off tune. Every time that comes on, my brain goes, oh my God, what's happening? And then you hear the 1 or 2 kids that are on tune, and you recognize the tune and go, oh yeah, they're trying to play it off tune, because then she closes the windows and the sunroof, and there's sound dampening qualities to the car, and that's what they're selling. for the commercial. And so they have to play it with them being off key because it doesn't feel right. You hear it and you go, like you said, the vibration isn't right, man. And you're like, wait a minute, this is bad. These people are so off key. I love these kids and they're trying, but oh my God. And that's the whole
It gives
point
you
of
a headache.
It gives you a headache.
Because they're not in sync. Now, if they were all on the wrong key, even though it's the wrong key, it would
wouldn't
still
sound
sound okay. It wouldn't sound great, but it wouldn't.
It was like it meant to be like that, though, right?
Exactly.
So you have to have
we
1,
write
2, or
music-
3 on key, and then it bugs you because you know you're hearing the right key, and then you're hearing everybody else off key, and that's what
Right.
causes the problem.
Exactly. It's that lack of resonance and vibration, because resonance is vibration. It's the same thing. And in reality, this quantum multiverse is resonance, is vibration. It is the interference pattern of those vibrations that is what we see as physical reality, that they're all vibrations,
Yeah.
So being in sync, I mean, you get that ability of people, I mean, you get the idea of people being able to flow through walls if you're in the
Yes.
right resonance. The Philadelphia experiment, for example, whenever they came back from the jump, they would be in the middle of a steel wall.
Stuck in a
They
wall.
would die shortly thereafter. Why? Because at that point, the resonance
The
was different.
molecules mixed with the bulkhead. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Exactly.
They were in too many
So-
dimensions at the same time.
bad. Yeah,
Well, the physics and the Bible tells us there are 11. Some physics tells us there are 13. Some physics tells us there are 8. So it depends on what scientists you want to listen to.
they're all
But
actually right, because they're looking at different resonances. And I don't believe that anybody says that there's like 450,000 levels. I don't believe that. I believe that there are 13. The way the universe works, if you look at the laws and understand them, there is nothing past that.
13 makes sense. Now,
Yeah.
then why would the man-made text that we've been following and reading for so many years say 11? Because there's actually 2 passages in the Old Testament where I think he's talking to Job, to where he mentions the 11 different levels. So
See, from what I've gathered, that's I think a very good question, Mike.
Thank you.
It's not something that I discovered on my own. It's something that someone answered that question. That originally there was 11, although to our perception there was 11, even though there was 13, but we have created 12 or 13 because of our understanding and our manifestation. We actually, as a species,
created
the
other
pathway
dimensions.
back to God, which was missing.
Okay.
And that was
Well, that's the Tower of Babel.
Yes, and that's the explanation of the Tower of Babel. That's the whole dichotomy of that.
CERN as well, maybe.
It's the same paradigm.
How many levels have they dug down into?
Yeah.
So see, they're not building up; they're digging down.
They're digging down.
That's-
Think
Exactly.
about that.
So
That's
whenever,
going into the center, they understand as below, so above.
yeah,
Not as above, so below.
but,
They understand as above, so
but they
below.
are opening the pit
Yes.
without even
Right,
knowing
and-
it, because
and when
that's
they
the
get
direction
too
they're
deep,
going.
That was the dichotomy in Lord of the Rings when they went to Moria, and he said they delved too deep, and they unlocked the Belrog.
Yeah.
That was what Tolkien was trying to get across. It
That's
wasn't
digging.
just
that's digging in the wrong direction. That's the whole
Yes,
thing. You will
because
reach.
because what they did was, instead of unlocking something beautiful, they unlocked something evil, and it was
Exactly.
because of their greed of digging too deep that created that. So it was the parable of the Tower of Babel.
Oh, now I got it. I wasn't thinking about the dwarves.
Right.
You're talking about the depth of the mines and the
Yes.
yeah. Okay.
Moria,
Yeah.
Mines of Moria.
Yeah.
So their Tower of
Mines of
Babel went
Moria.
down, whereas on Earth it
See,
went up.
But see, that's part of what's
It's the
also
same
written.
story. It's still the
If
same
you-
dichotomy, and they both fell.
Yeah, but that's the thing. If you seek, you will find it.
Yes.
So it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for, the most power and greed, you're going to
Let's start
find
from
it.
the bottom.
If you're looking for peace and tranquility and living in commonality with man and living
Well, here's
in
the
a
thing, though.
sustainable
This-
way.
Both of those stories are trying to tell you that the tower they built up, the Moria they built down. Jesus and everybody else is telling you you don't need to go anywhere but right here.
to fix
It's
you.
within you.
Don't do everything else, because you'll get there later on. But
Yeah.
obviously, because we all die and we all go somewhere.
Yeah.
The fact is that we're here right now, and we're here
Yeah.
for a reason.
What are we doing?
What is it? What is that we're exact? What are we supposed to do, and what is
What
that
are
we're
we
doing?
created for? That was the
Right.
conversation I had with the rabbi when he
No,
said,
but that's also our other one. That was the thing on Saturday the 19th. It's my Ichigai.
yeah,
What is your personal destiny?
right.
And if you are in resonance with yourself, you will be tranquil and happy. It's when you are not in resonance with your own destiny that you feel the vibrations to where your life is off, because you know something's not right, because you are not being your true you. You are not being the best version of yourself, and it doesn't resonate with
you.
you.
Read that. Tammy just showed you another proverbial Tower of Babel, right? Dog, the Sphinx is God. Animal forgot to live. Life is
It's
evil.
evil.
Yeah. So it's the same. That's exactly what that represents as well, and it's esoteric. You need to be able to understand, and that's the yin and the yang again, right? That's the Star of David, the masculine and the
Wait.
feminine. That's the
Yeah.
yin and the yang. That's the same. Everything is part, or the yin and the yang, right? Everything is part of the same whole, whether it's light or darkness, and without
Right.
either, neither thrives. But
Well, no, actually, light
too
can
far.
thrive. Light can
It
thrive
goes
without darkness. But the thing is that one of the things that started off my original path for my book is that we were all candles and we were all part of the one, but we couldn't see the brightness of our own candle.
right.
And so this reality was created so that we could see what our own candle was. But in order to see the brightness of your candle, you have to have darkness for you to light up, to find out how much darkness your candle can actually light up. And
Yes.
so therein lies the difficulties that surround us, is so we can find out how bright our candle is. And in the end, we realize that the light that was in us, the light that is us, isn't us. It came from the source.
Right.
So the more we're connected to the source, the brighter our candle is.
But you can't
because-
see that light until there's darkness for you to see how bright that light is. So darkness is a necessity. But if you go too deep
In
into the
this
darkness,
reality.
you chase it, then you
Oh,
unlock something
You
evil.
go too
And
deep, you go too high, you're gonna get
Mhm.
you go too high, you're
what goes
Icarus.
up must come
You
down.
get too close to the
right?
sun and your wings melt and you fall to
Yep.
the earth. That's
Yep.
the Tower of Babel in a
All right,
different.
y'all. We got to take off, but thank you very much, and I'm
Yes.
glad that we were able.
I
to
thank you. Hey, we had great conversations, and thanks, Norms. You
Yes,
gave
we
us
did.
some great insight there. That was awesome. Thank you very much.
see
You
you
guys
guys next week.
are traveling. We want more pictures from wherever you
There's
guys
gonna be
are at.
lots and
because-
lots more. I gotta figure
No,
out.
but you
the
guys are-
Nomadic Noobs. If you
charging
want it on our
thing,
Facebook and our YouTube, if you want to see all the pictures, that's what we're going to be posting.
You guys are in Utah, seeing some of the best areas that are around. And don't forget to buy yourself a shovel, buddy. That always helps.
I know, but you always got to have the
You,
shovel,
you,
bro.
you got to bury those bodies, man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yep.
All right, guys. Love you guys. I'll see you soon. Thank you all for
All right,
watching.
brother. Love you guys.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Eric.
you
Thanks,
guys can
Norm.
continue if you want. Go for
Yeah.
it.
Yep.
Oh, we will
want-
for another 20 minutes, something like that.
You better get 20 minutes.
Or an hour. I mean, whatever.
Because when I hit the
Or
2 hour
whatever
mark,
it
I'll
goes.
have to go.
Mwah.
Yeah, when I hit the 2 hour mark,
you
I'll
guys.
have to go and
Because your mom has to be fed as well, so we know what's going on.
All right, guys.
Thanks, Norma. Thanks, Aaron. Peace. And that's what it is. And
agreed.
life can be good if we choose to look at it that way. Life can be absolutely horrid if we choose to look at it that way, because it is good and it is horrid. The light and
hell
the
is
dark
down on
exist.
Earth, right? There was a song by a band called Accept, a German heavy metal band, speed metal band, and they said in the lyric in there, well, it was heaven is where hell is, and in the lyrics are heaven is never in heaven, heaven is where hell is, and hell is down on earth. And what he meant by that was exactly what you're saying. Hell is a choice. Heaven is a choice. If you want to be in heaven, all you have to do is choose the light, and your life gets better. If you want to be in hell, you choose the darkness, and your life gets shittier. It's
Yep.
a matter of perspective. Exactly what Mike is telling you.
You are
Yeah.
creating your own reality through your perception of what reality means to you.
Yep.
Okay, so you can look at it more
So,
peacefully.
that goes back to what we never finished last year, right? Is your reality in your way?
Yeah, thank
Right?
you very much.
Right?
That's what brought us
I think what we
together,
could do
Leo.
for Earth Day, Mike. I think you and I need to do that as the theme. Why don't we do that for the theme? I want to do Earth Day.
Let's
We
do
got a
that.
month to plan it, right? Why don't we do
That's
that
perfect.
and
we can
run
do
that
that.
for Earth Day and have that as part of the topic for some people to talk about and have other people, because I want to have some people on to talk about, possibly sobriety, definitely problems.
No. I don't. I'm sorry. I know that you're on your trip, but I need to be there soon, but I'm not ready yet. I don't want to talk about sobriety just yet because
Well, I want to talk
I
about
fucking hate sobriety. There's a fucking reason why I try not to be sober. Sobriety fucking sucks, dude. Fuck.
Not really that, but you just got to get to a point where you understand reality enough to where, and I had to realize that. And then it's hard, sobriety is hard when you're either on drugs or alcohol. So I utilized my negative because they gave me medicine so that I was unaddicted, and I was there for 5 days.
You were able to take advantage to where you no longer had the physical addiction. Then it was only the psychological and habitual addiction.
And I can
those
manage
are
that.
easier. Those are easier to deal with.
Easier to manage than a physical addiction.
Now, my psychological addictions are fucked up because when I was down to 1 cigarette a day, it was still, I would either have coffee or I would eat lunch after lunch. In Mexico, they have
you
the same.
You have to break that cycle because there's certain things that we do as a smoker. I did that. You
I
take
get
a
in my
shower,
car.
you go a cigarette first, you get in the shower, then a cigarette. You eat food, you have a cigarette. You have sex, you have a cigarette. Watch a movie, have a cigarette. Everything you do, a cigarette.
I get in a car, and so later on, even when it's a reward. I get into my car, I know that my car is free. I get into somebody else's car, I can't smoke.
I won't. Yeah, so, my car, I roll the window down. I'm smoking, flicking my ashes out the window, man.
Absolutely, because it's mine and it's my freedom. I can, put my radio hasn't worked since I got angry because the radio had a short in it, and there was the middle of there was a joke that they were telling on a channel on the radio, and I didn't get the punchline of the joke because the short, it sort of stopped. And so I was trying to bang it to get it back on to hear the punchline, but I knew the punchline was gone, so I hit it just a little bit too hard, and I broke the fucking radio.
So now you got nothing right at the time.
So now I just smoke my cigarette and spew, start to just in my own thoughts, and that sometimes is cathartic and good, and sometimes negative because you take it out in road rage. Because you're in your own mind and everybody else is on their own way and you're like, get out of my way because I'm priority number one on this planet.
Right?
Everybody needs to get the fuck out of my way because I need to get to where I need to get to.
Self-important, self-absorbed. I don't care. You guys, what are you guys doing? You're in my way. How dare you be in my way? Yeah. People get that ego and they start living there. I watched a guy on one of those shows. I think it was Court Cam, and they took this guy's kids away from him, and he shows up in court. He actually went to jail because he tried to murder the judge, and he was threatening judges and lawyers. I'm going to kill you guys, all this stuff. But he was so egoic that he was in court, and he literally said to the judge, who the fuck do you think, and this is the way he was talking, who the fuck do you think you are keeping my kids away from me? Like you have the authority to take my kids from me. Fuck you. Fuck your court. You are nobody. Who the fuck do you think I don't give you the authority? He's saying these things like as if he believed that shit.
But I do believe that shit, and he's absolutely right. But at the same time, you can't talk to a judge like that because they will physically rip those fucking kids away from you because you have no rights.
He said, you're fucking dead. I'm going to fucking kill you. And the judge didn't put him in jail right then. He went out and he got a gun and he came back. The judge was no longer there when he came back a couple days later, and he tried to kill some other judge that wasn't even involved. And of course, he went to attempted murder. He's in jail for the rest of his life now because he was so egoic. He believed that I'm going to go get a gun and because of who I am, I'm going to kill that motherfucker and I will get away with it because I am me.
He didn't think that he would get away with it. Just he never thought that far.
You're probably right.
He just thinks about himself and his own needs.
Right.
He doesn't think about any other consequences, any others. Because what is he going to think about the judge's kids, the judge's daughter, the judge's friends? They're going to miss him, even though he might be a corrupt son of a bitch or whatever, but they're going to miss him at some point. And so you have to think about all those externalities and that quantum multiverse that actually does exist in everything that you do.
Perceive that.
Ego is only about the self. It's only about
self.
That's why I talk about the gut is sometimes a problem. Go with your gut. Yeah, your gut doesn't have very much of a brain.
Right.
So now some people say that our gut is our second brain and that sort of thing, and it does the subconscious quantum processing and whatever. So we should listen. And many times our gut tells us because there's something off in the resonance. If your brain's telling you, their salesman is telling you a good thing, but your gut is telling you there's something off about this guy. In that case, yeah, trust your gut.
Yeah, agreed. So Kathy
But
said I
whenever-
quit smoking on 4/11/2009. Cold turkey. That's good. I quit on April 6th, 2012. I didn't do it on, or 2013. I didn't do it cold turkey. I ended up using first the patch and the gum and that kind of stuff. But I did quit, and I haven't gone back. And then on the 3rd of March, I quit drinking alcohol. My choice to actually quit happened on the 7th. Right. But I was, the
You've
sobriety
been
started
sober since the 3rd.
on the 3rd.
Um,
I chose after that one. It was probably more around the 5th or
Yeah,
the 6th. I realized that I wasn't
I
gonna be
promise-
addicted to it anymore.
I'm-
Yeah.
I was going to stop smoking in 2000 because at 28 I was too old for this shit anymore. I should be wiser and shit. Mhm.
Right. Well, I
Yeah,
quit.
that really fucking worked.
I quit before I turned. I know as you have a cigarette and you're taking a drag. I quit before I. But it was not easy, but cigarettes were harder than me. The psychological addiction to cigarettes because the craving. Actually, I think that helped me with the alcohol because the craving for alcohol happens the same way. The physical addiction and the psychological addiction to nicotine only lasts for 5 minutes, and that's not a joke. If you can convince yourself not to have a cigarette and go click the second you have the I need to have a cigarette, go click, turn on a timer. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I swear I'm not going to do it. It builds up. It builds up. It builds up. And at the 5-minute mark, it crashes and disappears and goes away.
Wow, really?
5 minutes.
That is good information.
5
That is
minutes.
something that
So if
because
you can
I
last
can't go. I go
5
2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, and I'm like, fuck it. I gotta go get some cigarettes. I'm out.
It builds up and it gets really hard. But if you can talk
Well,
yourself
nicotine
out of
is
it
worse than
for 5
heroin.
minutes, then the craving actually drops. It goes away. You no longer have the craving, and then it only gets you on the next cycle. For the cycle starts when you first wake up in the morning. The distance of time between the second you go, oh, I'm awake, and you light a cigarette starts your cycle. If you wake up and light a cigarette immediately, you might end up being a chain smoker for the day. If you wait
Yeah.
15 minutes or a half an hour or an hour before you smoke, that sets the precedent. Your craving will happen an hour later, and then an hour later, and then an hour later. So if you
Psychological
waited for 5
programming.
minutes, you have an entire hour if that's what your precedent is in between cigarettes. Whatever the distance is between what you smoke, that timeline is when your craving happens. And then if you're in a setting like this where you're talking a lot, your brain thinks a lot more time has happened. I used to do the same thing, and I would smoke a lot more while I was talking.
I smoke a pack during my shows.
Right, because you're talking about it. You're thinking, you're lighting the cigarette. Your mind and your body thinks that an hour has gone by when it's been 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So you light another cigarette. So, but if you can fight that craving, 5 minutes, it goes away, and it'll come back.
Like
You
that.
can fight it again.
She can't write and listen at the same time. Absolutely. I just wanted to bring that up because the same sections are being lit up in your brain. Because when you're writing, you're actually speaking, and speaking is actually interpreted by the same part of the brain as the listening because it's linguistics. And so you can't actually do the two things at the same time. You have to choose which one you're going to do. I'll try and listen to videos and read articles.
Really, literally,
I can't.
I can't. Dang it! I can't write and listen at the same time.
Because you can't.
Yeah, it's hard.
Your brain won't process it.
Yeah, your brain has a hard time processing one or the other.
It's
You're writing in those words.
it's practically impossible.
Yeah.
Why? Because you will shut off the listening in order to speak to write.
Yep.
Okay. Or you will shut down the speak to write to listen and comprehend. Because
Yeah.
you'll hear it, but you were not listening. You're not
Right, that's like
comprehending it.
trying to read and listen to somebody at the same time, unless you're reading what they're saying. Oh, I'm sitting there. I'll be out there
Yeah.
with my mother. And
You
I'll
can
learn
listen to
German
music
or
and
French
write.
or something.
You can
And-
listen to music and write, and that's fantastic.
Right,
There's
I do
no
that
lyrics
with
there.
classical. When I write, I listen to classical music. That's fantastic.
Because
But
there's no
words,
lyrics. There's
I'm
nothing
trying to
for you.
learn, say, German, and the television is on. I'll sometimes I'll go, wait a minute, what was that word that they just said? Because I'm hearing it now. It's not showing it to me because they're teaching you how to spell as well. So you're listening, saying
True.
words and spelling words. So sometimes they don't give you the word to look at, and you have to hear it. I'm like, wait a minute, I mute the television and play it back because the TV is distracting. My brain is trying to catch both what's being said there and what's being said here.
And you can't
I'm trying to
process
focus
both.
on this, and my brain is hearing that as well. So it's splitting my attention. So I mute it, listen to that, got it, unmute the television, and then I go. So it's just the same as
But see, I get people tell me, but I can do two things at the same time. No, if they're occupying different parts of the brain, yes,
Yeah.
fine. And you're paying less attention to each.
Right.
actually. And so you're doing both instead of 80 or 85% capacity, you're doing both at 20% capacity. So you're going to fuck both up. But yeah, you're doing two things. Congratulations. Kudos. You're multitasking. But the ability to focus on one thing, get it done, and then be able to switch your focus to another thing and get it done correctly, yes, requires patience, time management, and ability to focus on, yeah, I've got 20 things to do. Oh, my mom would do that. She 20 things to do. She would just shut down and not do any of them because she couldn't handle any of them. What I end up doing is I've got 20 things to do. All right, priorities. This is number one. I know that those other things are on the list. I'm not thinking about them. I need to do this first. Boom. I get that done. I still have the to-do list, and so you're scratching things off the to-do. But each one in and of itself is its own focus. You have the multiple things. At the end of the day, I ended up doing a bunch of different stuff, but I didn't do them all at the same time. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done any of them right.
Right. Well, and then that's just like Kathy said, she crochets and reads patterns and listens at the same time. That I know someone, Mandy, as a matter of fact, Mandy Wilson, who is the curator for Ancient Aliens Worldwide. Whenever when we were doing shows live, she'd be doing the same thing, crocheting.
Yeah,
and
that's
listening.
possible. Not a problem.
Not a problem.
It allows
because
you.
it's a different part of the brain. Yeah.
Plus, the crochet is a sequence, a constant thing. So you're actually not thinking about it. You're just going through the motions.
Right. And
It's your muscle memory. It's not your mental processing. You're not actually using your cerebral cortex.
Right.
You're just processing. Now, the ultimate pattern, yes, but you already set that out. Your subconscious already dealt with that. Okay. And at some point, you're going to go, oh, wait, the pattern had to change here. And at that point, you're going to stop concentrating on what you're doing, reconcentrating on your knitting. And then once it gets into the pattern, you follow the pattern and continue listening to what you were listening to before. Oh, I'm multitasking. No, you're not.
No.
You're breaking
Zen
things
moment. It's like one of the books that I read when I was younger was Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. This guy was rode motorcycles, and motorcycle maintenance was his Zen. That was the time when he could clear his mind. It was the same thing as meditating. And so he was teaching that just exactly what you're saying. You can find things that are creative to do. Like somebody earlier said, I don't remember who it was, said, when I get mad, I wash dishes or I clean. Some people do that. They get angry.
Because you are doing something physical to where you don't have to think about it. For example, it's great whenever I'm pissed. I mean, the other day I was pissed that I walked for 2.5 hours. Right. I walked the same pattern 3 times, but I just walked. Now I'm getting old, and so my hips and my knees and now my shins started hurting because I haven't played soccer in about 6 months. But but still, you have to go out. And that me was walking. I processed all that shit in my head. Washing dishes. I also clean the kitchen and wash the dishes. When you're washing dishes, you're not thinking about scrubbing. Now, personally, I am thinking about scrubbing all the things off the dish and making it perfect. But that's my Zen. But otherwise, you're just going through the motions and running through all that shit in your mind.
Dishes and then put them in the dishwasher. I'm like, because that sanitizes them. I'm cleaning them, and that's taking care of anything I miss. But I'm the same way.
No,
Gotta
see,
have for everything.
No, I don't. When I put them in the dishwasher, I used to hate it because you have to wash them beforehand because the dishwasher doesn't get everything. Now I just rinse them off while they're still wet. It hasn't dried and caked on. So I just rinse it off and then let it do it. But my preference,
we're kind of doing the same thing. Yeah.
But my preference, because I don't trust a dishwasher, because I've pulled dishes out of there that ain't clean. So my preference,
somebody put it in
I
there.
wash my dishes for 3.5 years or more. I was actually, cooking the meals and washing the dishes and everything else. I washed the pots. I never used the dishwasher during those 3 years. Why? Because I washed every plate and every pan and every skillet.
Right.
I didn't trust it for anything else. I wanted the stuff that I was using to be clean, and the only one that can guarantee that it's going to be clean is me.
I won't let anybody touch the cast iron. Don't even touch it. Go away from me.
That's mine.
I don't want to see any soap in that. If you put soap in that, I swear to God, I'm gonna throw it away. We're at the
they not only I use the detergent, but some people use like this the thing that puts crystal on or makes the metal shiny or something like that.
Yeah,
and I'm like, no, because that crap's going to be in our food later on. So no, I'm not putting that in my shit. Okay. My favorite is the old skillets. They're like 20 years old and you're scraping the rust off every time you're washing it because that iron is getting into the food and everything else. And that's good food. It's
Right.
got the flavor, it's got the mojo, it's got the juju of everything
You
you've
got
been
the
putting
patina
into
still
it.
in there, and you just wash it out with a hot rag, and then you put oil back in there, and you heat it back up, and leave the oil in there, man. It's like oiling a good baseball mitt. You don't
Yep.
oil that baseball mitt and let it dry out or dry it off, put soap in there to get the oil out of it.
Absolutely.
The oil is the key to keep that thing perfect. Same thing with cast iron. And then like non-stick pans, I'm like, I don't want to see those in the dishwasher. You're gonna ruin my non-stick. I don't want you to touch it. Let me have it. Same thing with my cooking tools. Do not touch that. I don't want that knife in the dishwasher. I gotta wash that.
Why?
knife
Because
in.
I don't want that detergent on the food when
On
I'm
that
cutting it
knife,
through
because I
it.
don't want it on the food next time. Exactly. Right.
Because it
So like
will
my
get there.
sister will come over and she'll start doing dishes or something. Can I put this in the dishwasher? Yes. I'm like, any Tupperware, I don't give a shit about it. Put it in the dish, but I don't want you my cookware.
I fucking
Consider
hate
it something.
washing Tupperware because
Yeah.
there are these little crevices underneath that I
God.
can't get into with the sponge. And
Yep.
my mind tells me, I know there's bacteria in there, and I didn't get to
It's
it.
gonna get in my fucking food, man.
And
Yep.
I didn't get to it. So I tossed that in the hot water from the washing machine. All right, fine. The dishwasher.
Yep.
Yeah,
Sterilize
that
it. I'll be all right.
it'll sterilize it. It's good.
Yeah. I can
Um,
rinse it out and try to get the soap off
but
of it
those
before I
but
use it.
those little Tupperware things. I mean, everybody knows here in the house that I don't wash. I hate washing those
Right.
because internally they're easy, but it's the external and it builds up. And so, but I'll wash all. None of the metalware goes into the dishwasher because it just leaves a stain on it and everything else. So I'll fill the dishwasher with the normal stuff, the eating ware and the plates and everything else, and the cooking ware actually gets washed by hand. But that's, everybody hates doing that. Oh, why do I have to do it by hand? Why
Yeah.
not? We did it for hundreds of years, you lazy ass bastard. Fuck you.
Right. They make everything so freaking people so lazy by doing that. Like I have this remote for the television that you can just speak to, right? So
Well, hold on. When I was a kid, my dad also had a remote. It was called me.
Yeah.
Mikey, go change the channel, and I'd have to get up and go from 3. I'd have to go.
He goes, start at channel 2. No, go to 3. Go to 4. Wait, let's wait till the commercials. No, go to 5. And then it was the rabbit ears. You got to move that. Have your brother move the rabbit ears.
Oh wait, no. The worst thing is touch the end of the rabbit ear. Extend your arm over here. All right, cool. We got a connection.
I remember my dad going, touch your brother's arm. Touch your brother's arm. Okay, don't move. You guys just stand for the next hour. Yeah. Right. Julie says that too. I was the remote. Yeah. Right. And so then we got lucky, or we got lazy. And then we had a remote that was attached by the cord. And then you had the clicker, which wasn't. It was battery operated. And it worked on, first one worked on light. And then the next one worked on the infrared. And then they started getting better. But now people don't even want to press buttons with their fingers. So they press one button and then talk to the machine. And the television prompts you. I'll type in say I'm going to Fox, right? I want to go to Fox International. I'll go 760. On the screen, it says next time, hit the button and say Fox News. I'm like, really? Really? The computer is telling me be lazier.
Calm it down. Exactly.
And be lazier. Yeah.
Why? Because they want your voice recognition.
Right.
They can't get your voice recognition if they don't have enough inputs.
Right.
Because the Samsung TV will be picking up conversation, but if you're sitting there zoning out to the TV, not saying a damn word, then they don't have your data on file.
Right.
The more that you talk into the AI system, the more of your data they have on file. Now, we are personally fucked because they've got hundreds of hours of my voice online, so they'll be able to fucking copy my shit.
Yeah.
Anyway, exactly. However, normal human beings don't talk to you.
And our voice, they got us all.
Your cell phone and everything else. Oh, yeah, they got you by. Yeah, but you can actually choose to unplug. Now, will they notice? But they won't care.
Yeah.
Okay. Unless now, what they want to do, and this will be the Armageddon system, they will create a chaos system to where everybody will want to run to the city centers, and at that point, you'll have to be marked to be identified.
Yeah.
You just don't have to comply with that system.
Right.
But that means going back to that lazy way that you were before. You'll own nothing, but you'll be happy.
Right.
Or you're going to work your ass off. You're going to sweat your ass off, and you're going to eat some stuff that isn't made in a 4-star restaurant that you could have paid $150 to really have a nice meal, but you cooked it yourself, and you're surviving outside the system, and they're not telling you what you need to think.
I love what Tammy said. If you ever was the remote for your dad, you were the bomb, especially if you watched Planet of the Apes or Star Trek, etc., with your dad. And I did. I watched Planet of the Apes, watched Star Trek. We watched, what was that one? There was one where these aliens were coming down, and the only way you could tell them from humans was their pinky had this look like it was broken. They had this little part of their pinky that was crooked, and that was the only way you could tell the aliens from the humans. I forgot what that one was called, but that was around the time when,
like that one.
yeah, it was crooked. Yeah, it was a messed up, and so that was the only way you could tell that they were non-human. But yeah, we watched the Wide World of Sports. You know, they had the agony of defeat. The guy who was the agony of defeat didn't even know he was the agony of defeat for 15 years till someone told him. He's like, "What? They took that time I crashed and used that? Yeah, you're immortalized on television, bro." And
he's like, but they didn't get the medal that I won the next year and everything else. I mean, they don't.
Like, that's what I'm remembered for. Yeah, he's remembered for that, for the agony of defeat, but not all the medals he won prior to and afterwards. You know what I mean? But right,
and that can be frustrating.
Said Lawrence Welk, right?
Oh God, I remember listening to Lawrence Welk, my abuelita, my grandmother,
right?
on my dad's side.
And Johnny on late night, right? Johnny Carson, late night, right? Oh man,
Carson. See, in some houses, my great grandmother went to sleep at 9:30, so I would have to turn it way down. But yeah, Johnny Carson was way down, and I would laugh, and I'd have to hold my laughter so I wouldn't wake up bisabuela. And in my grandparents' house, they turned on the news at 10 until 10:20 because the weather came on at 10:15, and as soon as they knew the weather, they turned off the TV and went to bed.
Yeah, because they didn't care about that, right? Jack
Carson
LaLanne,
came off
my
after.
mother used to lay down and do the calisthenics with Jack LaLanne when I was a
I remember
kid.
those VCR, those videotapes of Jack LaLanne. Yeah,
I remember watching them on television, bro. It was all live on television. My mom was laying down on her back doing the bicycle thing with Jack LaLanne, and us kids were laying there doing it with her, getting our calisthenics in. It was not VCR tapes. It was actually in syndication at that time when I was a kid. Man.
No, I didn't watch. I mean, see, the thing is, when I was growing up, I knew everything that was on every channel. We didn't buy a TV guide. Everybody asked me what was on, and I could tell them what was on all 5 channels for 24 hours of the day, because I knew the programming of the week, and so I generally knew. It was just all up here. I had 30 different telephone numbers in my head. I knew mother's friends, and
we didn't have
absolutely
remembered everything for us. So
I had a spelling bee. I went through a dictionary. I memorized the entire fucking dictionary to make sure that I knew, and I got fucked up with Arctic because I forgot there's a C in the middle.
Yeah, right.
ARTIC. Third place. Oh,
Petticoat Junction. What was Green Acres came on right before Petticoat Junction.
Green Acres is the place for me. I'm living
right, and then what's her name? Was around that same time with Coochie Coochie.
Oh yeah, that was what
was her name? Oh, I can't remember her name.
Oh, nobody can, but everybody remembered those bazongas.
Right? Yeah, no joke. And that was the time when what's her name too? The
was also on
I Dream of
Laughing,
Jeannie was on back then, and I Love Lucy. That was back in the 70s.
Lucy,
Charo.
Lucille
Junior
Ball.
remembers Charo. Coochie.
Charo, that's it. Yeah, she was Mexican or some.
Kathy remembered it too. Charo. Isn't that funny? The women remember her name and the guys remember her gazongas. We remember the puppies.
Because she'd always come out like this. I mean, that's the whole.
Around that same time, or not too long prior to, when she was doing that, Elvis was banned from the pelvis down. However, when she was shaking her gazongas, they weren't banning that, were they? Because that didn't turn on the little girls and the women, so the men weren't jealous. That turned on the men, so they said, "Shut up, wife. Go get me something out of the kitchen."
Another time,
right?
When the wives weren't even watching TV because they're still cleaning up after dinner.
Too busy cleaning up from everything. The guys were watching; they had no idea what's going on. Right? They did that in Back to the Future, where the dad was fixing the television and mom's cooking. She had no idea what was on TV. She said, "Come on, quit screwing with that thing. You're going to miss your dinner."
Because that was her focus.
The television didn't care.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it didn't. The programming, that's something for people to get away from their real life. And she's like, this
A
is real
horse is a
life.
horse, of course, of course.
Of course. Oh, Mr. Ed,
Mr.
Bewitched
Ed, yes.
and
And the big
Bewitched.
glasses. Where we used to have the sunglasses that were Mr. Ed size that everybody would
Oh,
wear.
I
And you put
had
on your
those.
head and they were this wide. And
I
everybody's
had
walking
those.
around with the Mr. Ed glasses or the sunglasses
Well,
on.
here's one for
A pet
Tammy.
rock in their
Uh,
pocket back in the 70s. I Dream of Jeannie, right? I said that one earlier.
I'm thinking Flipper.
Flipper's a good one too. Right? Flipper. Oh my God.
That was right after, what was that dog, Lassie? You know,
Right,
Lassie, that
right.
they
Rin
had
Tin
that whole
Tin
thing.
was
And
in syndication at the time. Lassie was on, right? The Monkeys were on. I mean, those were all
see, television, that was our entire programming.
What was it? What was that?
I remember Three's Company.
Three's Company was really big in the 70s, right? Going into the 80s. What was the other one where they were oh crap, I can't remember the name of it. Remember where they were on the boat and they got stuck on the island?
Gilligan's Island.
Ah, yeah, Gilligan's Island.
Well, everybody loves Ginger and Marianne.
Ginger and Marianne were hot. Yep.
Well,
Yeah,
they were the ones that, but they came on right
They
before
showed.
or after. Then you have, but remember, the Love Boat and Fantasy Island on Friday
Love Boat,
night.
Fantasy Island. Those were on.
That was the Friday night. That was your party
That was on
you
when
were a kid.
Dallas was on prime time. It's back on prime time here in America. They've
okay.
redone it. They're doing it now. It's on the air still.
Well, see, I used to live about 15 miles away from the ranch that Dallas was filmed on. So
I went
yeah,
to
that was-
Bonanza's Ranch up there in Nevada. You can go on the ranch, the one they
Oh,
filmed.
that's
on.
fucking awesome.
That is
Bonanza.
badass. Yep. We go on there on the ranch, Bonanza Ranch, and everything is exactly the way you saw it. The whole lot they built to film that is still there, and it's a tourist attraction. I went there when I was a kid. It was
Well,
fun.
see, the Dallas farm wasn't a tourist attraction. It was actually a working farm.
It was real
They
fun.
just use it to film. Yeah. So it's still there. But it
Yep.
does have the film attraction as well and everything
Right.
else on the side. But yeah, and it's not that big, actually. But it's
The
but it
Bonanza
wasn't,
Ranch wasn't that big either. It was as small as my house, really. It was just a few buildings, and you could go inside. And
seriously?
you're like, what? It seemed bigger on TV. Well, that's because on TV they had the whole area where they were plowing and all that other stuff that wasn't part of the ranch in real life. That's like people don't realize that when you're filming on a set and people walk upstairs, they go upstairs and around the corner to nothing, and they stop up there until they go cut and they walk back out. And when someone walks down the stairs, it's the same. They built the stairs go up to a place where you can't see them on camera, and then they walk downstairs because they're coming into the scene. But there's nothing up. There's no second story.
there's no second stuff. Now that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yep.
Very.
if they're-
But
if they
see,
found the second
Hollywood
story,
does. But
It's
see,
over
that
here on
was.
stage 2.
But see, that was back in the '60s.
Yeah.
If they were doing that back then, what are they doing now with people lying down on the streets and playing dead and them filming it, and then you see them in the rearview mirror as they get up after the truck goes by,
Yeah.
because it's all a fucking movie.
Right.
That's where we get back to what are we going to do with life as it is now?
Yeah.
If it's all a fucking movie, yes, it's all a fucking movie, but make your own movie.
But we're
Don't
in
buy
control.
into theirs.
Right. We're in control of changing that narrative. That's the whole talk of the principle.
Awakening thing. That's the whole fucking awakening thing.
Yeah, it is. That is the way. That is the Tao. That is the Buddha. That is the Christ way. That is Muhammad's way. What everybody's been trying to teach us throughout all of time with all the scriptures is the way to understand or understand, get what's going on, the knowledge that your vibration, you are part of the creation, part of the creator, and that you have the ability to create your reality along with other people. We all co-create. So we either listen to their narrative, like Mike said, and you go down this dark path of being a subject and being a slave and doing what they tell you, or we go back to the way it's supposed to be, where we're all loving,
Which is
caring, and
harder.
Which
It's
is
a lot
harder.
fucking harder.
right?
but it's a
the-
lot
you know,
more
the dark side
worthwhile.
is easier, more seductive. Even Yoda said that. It's easier and more seductive because it gives you instant gratification. But the problem is there's no longevity there. Okay, so the longevity
It's not
is the
sustainable.
longer road. That's why it's called longevity. It's the longer road. It takes longer to get there. It takes more work. But the truth is, forever takes work, but it's worth it. Now, here and now, the evil way, it doesn't have any forever in it. It has a finite ending.
Right
The
now,
ending's already been designed into the system.
oh yeah,
That's what you need to understand.
oh, I'm going to get drunk right now, but in 2 hours I'll have a headache, and in 4 hours
But for 2
I'll
hours,
be
I'm going to feel great until I puke.
yeah, exactly. And so it's the now versus the long term. And see, the problem is that when people are also focused on the long term, they don't actually enjoy the now. And so
Right.
that's something that we can't lose focus on. So there's this balance between the two. It's actually enjoying where you're at. Otherwise, you're going to have horrible memories as you get older, but still working towards something that you already have a vision of and need to
Right.
build
And that
your
goes back to
own.
that conversation with the rabbi when he said that, to understand this is what you had talked about earlier.
The
What are you
Ichigai.
created for? And then you understand what your mission is, but you also have to spend time in the now because you have to take care of yourself. But if you focus too much time here, it's the same as going too far in, like they did for evil purposes. But if you're not and you're spending too much time on the outside, there's the outside Tower of Babel that we see in that storyline. So both of those are the dichotomy between going inward too much and looking outward to the long too
Okay,
much,
let's
not having the balance. of
let's
taking
play
care of
with this
yourself
one.
here.
Let's play with this one a little bit. I just got this thought, and it would be interesting. We have that live, right?
Yep.
And if we see live inverted, it's evil, right?
Yeah, right.
And where they have their own balance is the E. And I was thinking, yeah, but what would be the E? That's the part of the B that's not this way. It's going this way. It's got the B right above, and it's being what you're
being.
always talking about in yours. Okay,
Yep.
it's not
And
about
that's
the live
being.
or the
That's the
evil.
part of
It's
the
the
human that we
being.
are. We are being. We're trying to be. And that is
Exactly.
what? That's the B. That's the E of the balance between the two. It's weird that balance starts with B, right?
Exactly.
BALNC.
And that
Balance.
starts with
Balance
who
begins with a B and ends with an E because you are being in between that. That is being. The
Exactly.
balance is being.
And it's that ability to simply being is choosing who you are.
To understand and realize, being objective. Yes.
Choosing who, because you will choose every instant who you
Yes.
are.
You have to always. Yeah.
You have to. And so it's understanding that, and the R is the B conjugated for you and now, right? So it's the part of you have to choose who you choose to be at each moment that you live. Do you want to be an evil person? Do you want to be
And
a
then
good
not
person?
only that I'm being, but what do I want to become? What do I want to be in the future? What do I want
but
to
that
be
is
always?
that is the B that is coming.
Yes.
But it's coming on the path that you choose to follow, because if you choose a negative path, you will become somebody else.
Right. Right. And so when you're truly being, it's all now, like you talked about before. Reality
But
is
with the vision of the Ichigai, your own personal destiny. So you're not, I'm going to be a crackhead. So we know that you're going to lose your head, and in about 5 years you're going to die because your system can't fucking handle it, and you're going to be dead. So fine, you can become one of those little alabaster things with the RIP written on it, or you have your own personal Ichigai. You realize what your purpose for here was, and you're trying to draw that path towards that ultimate destiny, that ultimate purpose, and you can be who you know you are and become.
You have to be the path. So so the truth is, instead of looking forward, because if you're constantly looking forward to something that's in the future,
but you have to look forward to.
You're not manifesting it now.
But see, the reason you look forward is to be able to see and draw out that
end
path.
game. That's the end game, but I need to draw it to myself. I don't have to run to it.
In the end, I have to know what step I need to take tomorrow morning. Why? Because all of this you do before you go to sleep. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to do this, that, and the other, because that is taking me to where I ultimately want to be and what I want to
changing
become.
your vibration for the better to succeed and become what you want. I love what Tammy says. Without the honey bee, right, we are extinct.
We are extinct. And yes, the honeybees are disappearing all over the world, so our time is limited. In Hawaii, they actually found a way to replace. They don't usually use the bees on these flowers. Some of the birds are used, but those birds were actually hunted to extinction. So you have botanists that have to rappel down a mountain and physically touch the stem and touch the flower, and they have to pollinate. Otherwise, this rare flower
Right.
becomes extinct because
Well,
it
that's
can't grow.
what
And
will happen if if the other animals and they did start picking up the. I remember when that happened and the honeybee was dying off here in California. It's come back, but it was in that time when it was really scary. Well, then all of a sudden you saw 100 bumblebees where you didn't see. You'd see one or two because they were picking up the slack and becoming more and growing
the bees.
in population because the honeybee, the European honeybee, was disappearing. So the other bees that were doing the same pollination now were flourishing, and they weren't. Everyone's like, "Oh my God, a bumblebee, run!" They were right there doing the same thing. They don't care about me. They're trying to pollinate. They're trying to get the nectar, and they don't give a crap about me.
They don't.
It's only when I
You're just an
attack it
object.
is when they get mad at me.
You're just an object between them and the next flower.
Right.
Or actually, they might think you're a flower, so they'll investigate you. Later on, they'll figure out that you've got nothing there for them, and then they'll go on their way.
When I was working outside and I was taking care of pools, my deodorant or my aftershave, I think it was the aftershave. For some reason, wasps thought it was the female sex organ.
Oh shit!
Yeah, they were coming around my hands and my face, and I'm like, what is going on? And they kept like coming, just like, oh my God, and landing on me, and they were like, oh my God, and I was like, okay, is this? They're thinking it's nectar, or are they thinking this is like calling for sex? Either way, I realized that it was the aftershave I was using. So the next day I changed and didn't use that aftershave at all. And I came to work and they were just flying around and ignoring me. And then I did it as a scientist. I came back the third day with it on again and was just chased out of the freaking place because of that. I was like, wow. One time when I was down in Yosemite National Park, I ran out. I was with my father.
Big.
I was out with my father, and we were out at the time for over a month on motorcycles driving around. We went up to Canada, through the Canadian Rockies, came back in the United States. We had Independence Day with the Canadians, then came back for the 4th of July for our Independence Day in America. So we're partying like crazy. We come back. We end up down in Yellowstone. We actually went to Yellowstone first because we went down to San Diego and came back. While I was there, I ran out of hair soap. So we just picked up one it's at the store, a little small one, and I washed my hair in it. And when we got outside, I took off my helmet and I had a bandana on my head. I took that off, and all of a sudden, every fly in the valley landed on my head. I mean, there must have been 100 or thousands of flies. My entire head was covered with flies. You could not see and I'd do this. Oh my God. And they would fly up and come back, fly up and come back. And they were just whatever was in that soap, they were attracted to like it was honey. Yep. And my father was like, what is going on? And I was like, I don't know. These flies are all. So I had to beat the flies off with my bandana and cover my head and put my hat on and my helmet, or put my helmet back on. And he's like, let's get out of here. So we immediately went back to the campground and I re-washed my hair with hand soap, and that stopped. And I threw that thing in the garbage and got a different soap.
You don't want fucking flies being attracted to your head. That's just some nasty shit.
No, because what are they going to do? They're all going to drop some freaking,
larva on you. Exactly.
On me,
and you're going to have maggots
growing in my head. Yeah.
You're going to have maggots in your hair. Sorry.
That was just scary. Yeah. I don't know what that was about. So, yeah, that was just bad. So that was a weird thing that happened to me. And it was the soap. So some things react in nature in ways that we're not aware of until somebody finds out about it and then goes, hey, don't do that. That's bad because that draws them. Like flies to honey, or bees to honey, or bees to pollen.
Actually, bees aren't drawn to honey, but flies are drawn. Yeah. Exactly. Right. Their larvae are, and that's actually their food. That's why it's good food for us. And honey is actually one of the best foods that there is. So yes, one of the things that I want to do is set up a beehive in here. I've got enough flowers and everything else and trees for them to actually be useful. But it would be interesting to actually have honey, fish, chicken, eggs, and rabbits, and vegetables in the hydroponics. It's the ultimate cycle that I want to be able to build. Now, how I'm going to do that, I have no idea. You can send me PayPal at BennyPerspective@protonmail.com. Not a problem. We'll work on it.
Right.
Got a shameless plug in there. Go.
Right. Why not? There's nothing wrong with that. Right. So, it's time anyway. I got to get off here. You know that it's getting late. I got to go and help my mom. So shameless plug is what we do, right? We have to. If we don't plug ourselves, who's gonna? right?
Well, I usually don't because I don't share this out or that because I'm sort of a shy type of person. But since I've got an audience, y'all are here, so go ahead.
Right.
So there's difference. Yeah, I'm on YouTube and I seem to be an arrogant guy and I love the limelight and all that kind of shit. But in reality, I'm kind of shy and don't like the attention because usually the attention comes with expectations and their opinions and everything else. And
Right.
all of a sudden. And so I've had lots of attention from lots of family for many years because I was the only son, only grandson on both sides, only great grandson. And so you get a lot of attention on you. And at one point,
I come from a huge family, so for me, the only attention I got was I was my father's firstborn son that actually survived. So because of that, I did have a lot of attention. I was Little Lenny because he was Lenny. I was named after him. He's Leonard Senior.
Exactly.
He was Lenny, and I was Little Lenny. I was Little Lenny forever. Little Lenny, and then I became Little Lenny.
People never remembered my name. They assumed that my dad called me his name and Junior. Now his second son.
My
now
father
with
called me
another
Junior or Jr. most of the time. At first, it was Little Lenny, and then it was Junior or Jr. And he never called me by my name until once I reached like puberty. He stopped calling me Little Lenny, and then he called me Junior or Jr. And that was my name according to my father till the day he died. You know what I mean?
You were JR until you were JR Ewing until he died.
Right, I was JR. When he had Christmas presents, he put JR. He didn't put Lenny. He didn't put Leonard. He put JR. I was JR to my dad. I was Junior. And that's literally on my birth certificate. My name on my birth certificate has the JR at the end of it. Right. So my name literally is my birth certificate name is different than the one I go by, but it has the last name and then JR, and the last name is just spelled differently. It's my born name is Leonard Edward Neal, Neal Jr. And people associate that with the junior, like for instance, there's a race car driver, and his name has a junior at the end of it, and his name is Martin Truex, and he's a junior. So his name is Martin Truex Jr., and people think his last name is Truex Jr. And he's like, they don't call him Martin or Martin Truex. They always say Martin Truex Jr. And he's like, I get that I'm a junior, but people think the JR is part of my last name. And I'm like, well,
technically it is because you could be Martin whatever the third.
Right.
Which means that you're the third, you're the grandson, or the fourth.
Well,
and that is part of your name.
Leonard Edward Neal II for a while.
That would be nice. That's royal.
Because
that's sort of royal.
Yeah, well, because I am royalty. That's what my blood, my DNA. I am royalty. So I put the second, and I was going to go by the third if I had a child who I named after me, which I didn't do. So I just dropped it, and I just went back to
the king of Ireland. The king of Ireland, Leonard II.
Truthfully, yeah. The truth is, my family, the O'Neill. You can look this up, people. O'Neills have a greater claim to the throne of England and the UK than those people who usurped the throne. They usurped it.
So you might be the next king after.
If you look at Henry V, that entire movie was Henry V usurping the crown.
See, I love Henry V, and so you're a descendant of Henry?
Henry, I'm the actual descendant that should have been in charge, not Henry. Henry he was Welsh. We're actually Welsh. Henry's claim to the throne was he was related to Edward the Black, but he was Edward's sister's bloodline. I'm a direct descendant of Edward the Black, hence the middle name being Edward.
So you're actually closer than Henry V actually was.
Yeah, my family should be in charge of the UK, not the current people that are in charge.
Well, the current people they're Germans, so they aren't even.
The people that are in charge now usurped it from Henry.
But see, the people that are in charge now are from Germany, so they don't even have a right to it.
Right. That's the truth. They hunted my family. My family fled in Ireland to the south and eventually to America and changed the name of our last name and the spelling to hide in America.
To O'Neill.
Yeah. It was O'Neill when we got here, and they changed it to Neal and changed the spelling to an English spelling, Neal. Okay. And that's what it was for 3 generations. And then I changed it back to the spelling that my great-great-grandfather had when he got here.
Your great-great-grandfather?
Yeah.
Great-great-grandfather.
Yeah, 2 greats. Yeah. My father, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, and then his father. His father was the first one who showed up. Yes, they showed up, and then so it's not 2 greats, it's grandfather. Yeah, great. and then great. Yeah, so 2 greats. My great grandfather made it out here to California, and that's where the DNA for the Native American got mixed in with our family, because he married an Irish woman who came right off the boat, but his son, my grandfather, married a woman who was half Native and half German.
Okay.
That's how I got the DNA of Native American. That's what gave me that.
Ooh.
My father's a quarter, and I'm a half of that, which is an eighth. So I'm like 5%, something like that.
You know, I got no. Even though I lived in a state that was the last territory, actually, it's the 49th state, and it was where all the Indians were shoved into, and so yeah, I learned a lot about the Walk of Tears. It was thousands of miles that people had to walk, and
The
people
Trail of
actually
Tears? Yeah.
died. The Trail of Tears. Thank you. That was it. Why? Because they had to leave their homeland. They were forced by an invading army to leave their homeland and go to some barren,
And they
desolate
did,
place.
it was like the Bataan March in Japan or in the Pacific. They were marching them on purpose, hoping most of them would die before they reached Florida. That's where they put them all. They shoved them all into Florida after they shoved them into smaller places, and they pushed them as far as they could, except for the ones that were out here in the West, like the Apache and the Anasazi and the Hopi and all that.
And they kept pushing and kept pushing and kept pushing. And see, that's the thing. And they tried to fight back, but the system is so prevalent and everything else. So that makes me think about, we want to create these vacuums within the system, these little communities. But what prevents them from doing what they did to Waco?
Right. And that's the difference between being subjective and objective. If you're subjective, you allow things like Waco to happen to all of us. If you're not, you don't allow that to happen. And when
Yeah,
something
but,
like that happens, the people uprise and let the government know that is wrong, and we refuse. The reason that the
But
whole
nobody
January
did that
6th
because
thing
media
happened-
told them that it was okay and
Yes,
justified.
January 6th happened because everybody was subjective. And they listened to the media, and the media said these people did something illegal when they were just taking selfies. They didn't do anything illegal. The people who did something illegal, this will be bore out in history. The people who did something illegal were sent there. They are agents of the federal government, sent by the federal government to incite a riot. So they
A certain guy called Epps is actually filmed in multiple stages trying to induce people to go in. He was an FBI informant. So they induced this thing, and the Capitol Police actually opened up the doors. But I don't want to say too much because I don't want to take your shit down. Because my stream from last week was taken down because we had somebody talking about.
They hit the algorithm and let it run. That's what happened.
It hit the algorithm, and I got a strike, and I can't do anything for a week.
I had that happen to me back. It usually happens on my YouTube channel every November or December because they don't want me telling people what's going on during that time of the year. They do it to me every year. And they go after me for stuff that happened a year prior. It's not like it's something I just posted. It's always something that I did a year ago. So
it caught me by surprise because I got my warning like the day after the video edited. All right. Yeah. So, okay, I got the warning.
Yeah.
My first strike was a week afterwards. And actually it was after the episode that I uploaded, the live from yesterday. After the live, I got the email going, by the way, last week it's off and you're down for another week. So I'm thinking, what was
December and had me down all the way through January until mid-February before I could go back live on YouTube. Which then in March they deplatformed me because I deplatformed them. I took away all their rights to have all the information that they were keeping on me that my anti-malware told me about, and because of that, they said that I violated their terms of agreement. I was like,
their terms of agreement are that you will allow them access to absolutely everything. That's their terms of agreement. Yep. So since you did not allow them access to everything, they said, fuck you, you can't give our shit either.
Right. And so I was like, ooh, you told me. Oh, wait, I have another email that you don't even know is mine.
That's the way it rolls. But see, in order to prevent all that, we have to have our own personal backups.
Agreed.
It's just the thing that annoyed me because I hadn't downloaded
hard drive.
That's a live. I hadn't downloaded it yet, so I don't have access to that last video.
Do it as soon as the live is over. I download it, even from here from StreamYard, which I pay to keep 50 hours backlog. I still download it and to my hard drive, and then I put it on my MP3 file podcast, so it's immediately backed up again for the world to hear that's out there. for the world.
I need to learn and start to do that, but it also is time consuming and things that I haven't gotten into yet.
It is. When you have this, if you have, the good thing about StreamYard is that when you're done broadcasting, you can go and download the MP4 file.
If you're paying, and I don't pay, I use StreamYard for
free.
free.
If you're not, you just need to get a program that you can convert your files from MP4 to MP3, and then you can go to your channel if you broadcast it on YouTube or Facebook. You can download it off both those
Facebook is a lot easier. I downloaded all those, and I downloaded from YouTube about 12 of my episodes, but that was episode 18, so I hadn't downloaded in a month or so, and
it takes longer on YouTube than it does on Facebook.
But still, it didn't take that long. But it was I don't know. And I'm also running out of memory, and I just saw that today, and I'm like, oh fuck.
Well, I am too on this computer, and I have a shit ton of memory, so I'm gonna have to get an external hard drive.
No, I do. I had exactly. I have to get an external as well, but I don't have money for any of that shit because
they're not that expensive these days. I know. You can get a terabyte for under $50 these days, $30-$40.
There in the U.S., not necessarily here. And I had. See, I just got for $50. I got 250 gigs, a quarter tera, and I replaced a hard drive that had half a tera, and I have a backup that's a tera. But because of the humidity, I'm afraid the majority of that shit ends up getting moldy and basically gets corrupted.
You never know, right?
So you lose all that shit anyway. And when I was trying to download from the computer to that backup drive, that takes for fucking ever.
Yeah, if you're trying to, it's easier to put it onto a hard drive and transfer it to the external hard drive than it is to try and download it to the external hard drive.
Directly to exactly. Yep. And so that I lost patience for that. But for I leave myself exposed. If I get taken down, I got none of my content, and I really need to upload that to Rumble. I started off on Rumble, so I've got all my original Facebook things on Facebook and Rumble. But after I went over to Jacob's channel where I met you, I stopped doing anything on Rumble. With Jacob, I found out that YouTube got a lot more people. And so, right now I've got a lot more people on YouTube than what I do over on Rumble.
Well, that's just like, Rumble that channel on YouTube had more content than anywhere else. Like my MP3 file only has, I think, 200 or 300 episodes instead of 600. But my Facebook page has every show I've ever done.
600 episodes. God, if I get to 100 episodes, I'm lucky. I have 24 that I did myself, plus 19 on my group.
On my MP3 file, I'm on episode 322. So on my MP3 file out there to the world, there's 322 episodes, and that's half of what I had and what I've actually done in the last. I'll be on year 5 in June. This is season 4. It's actually season 5 because I'm on year 4 going into year 5.
Yeah, see, I don't have that much. My problem is that I don't have that much content. My whole thing was, okay, I'm going to produce content. What am I going to produce? I mean, I'm watching Marfugo right now, and I've got other people that are doing their little conversations and that sort of thing. But producing actually content that people are going to be willing to listen to, what are you going to bring?
I've had people ask me that too, because I've had people just literally just the other day on Monday offer me to go to work for them, right? And literally to make a lot of money. And I am contemplating, and I had to contemplate, right? What's happening is I can make money, but I have to give up the message to make money. True. You don't make money at this message that we're putting out to the world. It's really hard to make money at this unless
that's not our focus.
Right, because that's not our focus. The focus is the message, right? So you have to either stay with the message and say, no, right? Because the truth is this. I just had this conversation with Mandy afterwards, and they said, look at all of the prophets throughout time. Those people lived in tatters. Jesus he didn't wear a $1 million robe like the Pope does.
Nope.
Jesus wore the same clothes everybody else wore, and he ate the same food everyone else ate, and he took charity, and he lived wherever they could live. Because his message was more important.
He went to the tax collector was up in the trees, and he said, "Come down from there. By the way, I'm having dinner at your place tonight."
Right. So I said, "Who am I to think that I'm above those men, those prophets, to where I can charge money for the same message they were telling people
For
and
free.
gave their lives doing.
Absolutely. Not for free. They gave their lives to it. You're absolutely right.
And so I can't do that. I can't try to charge money.
But at the
for
same time,
message. But at the
who
same
am I?
token, I need to have
I'm not a prophet or an apostle.
Right.
You know, now I read the red words, and my Savior is Jesus Christ. Absolutely, Jesus is Lord. And they tried to take down in 1996. They tried to get me to eliminate my screensaver on my computer while I was on break,
right.
smoking a cigarette. 10-minute break. My right. And I just had a screensaver to make sure that people didn't have access to my computer, because then they would do my shit under my name and do all kinds of stuff. So protected thing. I've got a screensaver with a code to make sure people can't get in there.
Right.
The screensaver was simply Jesus is Lord bouncing around on the screen.
Right.
People got insulted by that. They wanted my passwords so they could take it away. I'm sorry, I'm not giving you by it. Then you have to eliminate your screensaver. Why not? I've got a Wiccan right behind me. I got a 40-year-old dude wearing, hot pink shorts, sitting in front of me. What's the problem with my message?
Right. Right.
And
Because
that
your
was in
message is the right message that they don't want people to know.
And that was in 96, man.
Yeah. Welcome.
That was the last year I was in the U.S.
Well, see, that's why these days, that's why you hear me talk non-denominational, because the second you start saying Jesus, you get attacked. The second you say Mohammed, you get attacked. If you don't
Muhammad
say
can
any
kiss
of these
my ass. Fuck
keywords,
him.
if you don't say any of the keywords that denote any kind of actual religion, then the algorithm doesn't care, and people don't care. They can't come at you if they have no target. They can't come at you and say, "How dare you give people the way?"
Well, in that case, and God was telling me today, blessed are those that suffer in my name, right? So yeah, Jesus is Lord, and if you don't like that, fuck you. That's your way. You can choose that, and you can test the great filter and find out if your resonance is going to go. That's okay. You can do you.
If you say a religion that triggers the other people's programming,
it's not a religion.
Their religion.
But it's not a religion.
Yes, it is. As soon as you say Jesus, everyone who has a religion in their mind sees you as their enemy.
Well,
because their religion tells them you're evil. It's just like when I say I'm Catholic, my brother, who's a Christian, says, "Oh, Catholics, they worship idols." No. Well, they worship saints like gods. No, they don't. They venerate someone who did something and performed miracles, and they call them a saint because they have done holy things.
That's what I'm talking about. Because Jesus himself, read the red words. There should be no denominations. What I'm talking about, I get that.
Jesus, all the Jews go, and and every single Muslim goes, how? And I've had people say to me, "Well, you were brought up as a Christian. How is it that you then can look at the doctrine of all the stuff around the world without looking at it through Christian eyes?"
Yeah, hold on. There's a difference between the religion and following Christ.
I know that.
The religion has been deterred.
You have to understand that if ever, it's only common.
But I do understand that. But I also understand a higher vibrational reality, which means that if they've got a problem with Jesus, and they got a problem with me because of Jesus, and they got bigger fucking issues that they got to deal with, leave me the fuck alone.
Okay, so see, here's the difference. I am going after everyone. Do you understand? And I'm pandering by not using a name, because what I'm doing is I'm reaching into their religion and I'm pulling them into their own spirituality.
True.
What you're doing is you're being an adversary. You know you're doing it. You're doing it on purpose. You're saying, "I choose Jesus. If you don't like that, you have the problem." And I say,
they have a problem.
You also have the problem because you're being an adversary. You're setting yourself up as a combatant on purpose, saying, "I believe that my way is right. And if you don't like it, you have all kinds of problems." And they're saying to you, "I believe my way is right,
and you've got kinds of exactly." And that it was just a mirroring thing, basically what it was because But see, the
I-
red
you know
words
that I'm
actually
part
tell
of-
us.
You know that I'm a
but-
Christian minister. You know I was part
the,
of the
re-
Catholic.
but the
But
reality
if you don't,
of
if
the
you
red
don't
words,
set yourself free from
I get
that
that. However,
religious connotation,
Leo,
because that's what it is.
the religious connotations are always going to be there because people have that dichotomy and that division already
But not
preset
if
in
you
their
come from a
minds as a program.
non-denominational standpoint.
However, I'm not going
Then
to
you're
do
all
that.
inclusive.
All inclusive is the Baphomet as well. That's one of the things that concerns me.
It's
Now,
the same. You have to understand that when you look at all of the scriptures and you take Jesus's name out and you input Marduk, it's the same character. If you take Marduk out and you input Thor, it's the same character. It's the same savior character with a different name, only because it was in a different place. And
Well,
that's the name that they used for that
the
deity.
main thing that I want
So
to
it's
understand
semantics.
in my message, yes, for example, the message that I'm talking about usually, and you see that it's the Tao. Why? I have studied the Tao as well. Okay, the Tao. I also
All of
saw
that
that
is
it broke
the same.
down
You have
in
to
very
understand.
communal things.
Judaism.
Whenever I talk,
is
whenever I
Hinduism.
talk about reading the red words, it's got nothing to do with religion. It's nothing to do with you're wrong. No, because every single one of us, including myself, is fucked up and wrong, and that's the whole fucking point.
That's because it's been fractured. And if you look at the scriptures, they're all telling the same story. That's the true story. That's the story that is
The
same.
ultimate reality is that each one of us is responsible for our own actions, and we need to take responsibility for our own actions and try and treat others as we ourselves would be treated. Love thy
Right.
neighbor as
And-
thyself.
But my point here is I'm showing you that by being combative and saying,
I'm not being.
choose
I wasn't.
Jesus. If you don't like it, you have a problem.
Well, see,
That's,
the thing
that's
is,
setting up the adversarial line
that
of
was
immediately.
a defense of the adversarial thing that you said. If you choose Jesus, then you've got a problem. And my response to that is, I'm sorry, that's my choice, and that's what allows me to try and be as good of a person that as I can, try and be merciful to others, trying to be kind to others. If you have a problem with my mercy and kindness, I'm sorry, there are bigger issues that you have to deal with.
And I agree with
I'm
you.
not worrying with
I agree
you.
with you because their religion has indoctrinated them to be that way towards you.
Exactly. So
but
if
you're
they are
aware of it,
combative,
right?
but if they
So
are
to be aware
combative,
of it, the first step of avoiding a trap is knowing of its existence. So I'm aware that those triggers are there. That's just like talking to a woman. There are certain words you don't use because you know that they're triggers. So if you
Well,
use
see,
those, you're only trying to hurt their feelings and get the same reaction.
no, it's
Understand?
yeah, I understand that, but sometimes we'll hit those triggers to get them to understand that they need to
I don't think that's
reduce their
necessary.
triggers.
I don't believe that's necessary.
True, I understand that.
I don't believe
However,
I believe
I
that
also believe that I will not negate or deny him in any way, shape,
no, I
or
agree with you.
form.
I agree with you. When it comes down to that, and someone says, "Do you believe in Jesus?" Absolutely. Someone says to me, "Do you believe in God?" You're Wiccan. You can't believe in God. I'm like, where does it say that Wiccans don't believe in a God? In fact, the Wiccans believe in more gods than you think, right? So and if you talk to Wiccans and someone says, "Well, you can't believe in Jesus because you're Wiccan," that's not part of the Wiccan religion. Never has been. It's inclusive. It allows you to pray to whoever you want to pray to. That's like saying the Knights of Columbus, who I've been knighted by, and they hate the Freemasons. And I'm like, why do you hate the Freemasons? Well, they allow people to join because they don't care what religion or no religion. And I'm like, oh, so they're all inclusive, and they believe that all people are created equal, and all people should have the right to love and have their own path, and it should be something that we should venerate in them by allowing them to have their own choice of religion. So you hate them for that?
No. I would have to change the reasons for disliking the Masons, because
Right.
I dislike the Masons for very real reasons. Because
It has nothing to
under
do with the religious connotation, right?
it's got
To have
nothing to do with the
things
connotation. It's got to do with the
or
control
Yeah.
and their want to absolutely dominate everything, which goes against the basic credence of individual liberty,
In that
individual
respect, I agree
consciousness.
with you and would say they need to be stopped from doing that. They're a secret society and they're trying to control the world. I agree, but not to say we don't like them because of their religious choices.
No. See, that's
know?
why I said nothing. It has absolutely nothing to do
I'm
with
talking
your
about the
religious
Catholics now.
beliefs.
I'm talking about the Catholics as a whole. Roman Catholics hate them because of their religious ideology, and that's all. When they should
Because they
be
all-
hating them
because
for
they-
their control and their secrecy, and
Because
trying
they
to
all
take control.
because the Catholic Church also wants control and secrecy and everything
So
else.
you have conflicting ideologies where they both want total dominance of the world, and they're
Exactly.
right. Yeah,
And Jesus
that's why I
didn't want
left
total.
tonight. That's why
But see, Jesus didn't want total dominance of the world because, whenever they ask him, "Oh, this could be yours,"
all
he's
that
the all
dominance
sovereign.
is the religion of evil.
Exactly.
I want the power and I want the
Exactly.
money is evil.
Exactly. He was there going, "Look, each individual is sovereign.
Yep.
You can't judge somebody else because you're just as much of a piece of shit as what they are."
That's right. That's
So
right.
he who is without
That was
sin
what-
cast the first stone.
Right. That's
Guess
he was
what?
trying to
Nobody
tell.
picked up a stone because we're all fucked.
'Cause
And
we're
if we realize that individually we're screwed and we got things that we got to work on, then you work on yourself and you stop trying to work on somebody else.
See, and that's why what you just said, I wish I would hear in a church, but you don't hear that very often. And some of the newer churches that are a little more evangelical, they talk like that now. Where you go to a Catholic church or a Christian church, any Christian church, you don't hear them telling you that from what Jesus said. But that is the lesson that people need to understand from what he said there. Judge not, lest ye be judged. Let he who is without sin cast the first stone. That's what that means, what you just said. I wish
Yeah.
more clergy would tell people what it actually meant when he said that.
But
and
they don't
give
because
details.
they're only following. I was going to be a pastor. I studied in the seminary for a year, and yeah, people are boring and they had less exciting Friday and Saturday nights and that sort of thing.
Right.
But also they're delving into the eccentricities of each text was destroying the Bible for me because it was no longer inspired. It was a result of the anthropological situations and sociological situations of the time frame in which the writer was living in, and it influenced his writings in this situation and that situation and everything else. And it wasn't a voice.
That was hard for me too. That was the beginning for me.
But the thing that actually
when you
killed
realize that, it changes your perspective of the entire.
But the thing that killed it for me, that I went back to Mexico City in the church where I was baptized in, and they knew that I was doing the seminary and that sort of thing, and we were short of a pastor and that sort of thing. And so they allowed me, not the sermon, but I was allowed to take on the majority of the mass, right? I would go through the things, and it's all in the book, and it's all written. And all of a sudden, I was going through, and at the end of that Sunday, I'm like, this is theater.
This is theater.
I said exactly what was written. I went,
It's
and
a
you
2
go
or 3
from
or 5 year curriculum.
step 1 to step 2 to step 3 to step 4.
And everything's time. And
you're doing
say that makes you sound smart is just
and you're doing a waltz. And
Yeah.
people actually, praised me because there were parts that are supposed to be sung. The majority of preachers are afraid of their voice, so they don't sing them.
Right.
And so they just say them, and people missed
Yeah.
it after a while. But I
Because
was
when
trying
you're
to be
chanting,
authentic.
If you're Roman Catholic, you guys out there understand the chanting that they still do in some places and in Latin.
And so some
in
of those,
Spanish.
some of those were there, and I remember I missed that. And so when I was doing it, I actually chanted it out and sung it out, and people actually enjoyed that. But at the same time, at the end of the day, I realized this is all theater.
Yep.
And that at that point,
It still
God
sounds
told me,
better.
God
Like,
told me
instead
that
of
you can
saying-
actually be a
saying somebody
missionary.
in English, in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, or the Holy Ghost, the way it was originally written, it doesn't sound as good as when you say "In nomine Patri, a Filii, a Spiritus Sancti." It just doesn't sound the same.
It wasn't that. It was. There's another phrase, and I need to pick up my my Lutheran hymnal to actually know what the phrase was.
Right.
But it's something like taking the blood and the wine and do this in remembrance of me, versus taking the blood and the wine.
Right. I had a priest who would sing that, and he would say, taking the blood of Christ.
Exactly. And so
drinking
I would
the
actually
blood
do
of
that.
wine. Yeah. And
Because the resonance is a difference. It makes a difference, and it makes it better.
Because now I'm getting chills. I'm getting goosies just saying that. Because you're putting your voice now. It's not just written. You're not just saying
the
it.
resonance.
Harmonic
It's
and
the
resonating.
tones. And you remember the tone that you sang it in. You
Yes.
didn't invent those notes. You remembered them from that time.
I did. When I sang that to you, it was exactly the way that we did it then when it was done. And I that's what's funny. You realized it because you went, I remember that, because that's the way it was, right? but it's the tone, and now there's more magic to it. Even though it's theater, now that's why they chanted in Latin,
because it
and that's beautiful to
resonates
listen to. It
inside.
resonates inside. Agreed.
It's not just mental, it's
Yep.
corporeal.
Yep.
Okay, but that was lost because they're focused on the theater.
Yep.
They're focused on, blah blah blah. You'll be happy. You'll be successful. Give us some money.
You know, when you hear, and there's another one
I need a new
that
Cadillac.
I always resonated with was when the priest is saying, and then he died for our sins on the cross, right? But then when the person's sitting there going, and then he died on the cross for our sins, and he resonates that, right? And you're just like, when you're in there and you hear that, it's reverbing
and it's
through
echoing through that huge
it's so
building
different
that
than any
was
time for
built
us
with
on
the
the cross. That
acoustics.
sounds so like worth nothing, but that resonation of that, you know what I mean? And then chanting instead of saying, in nomine Patri, Filii, Spiritus Sancti, chanting that as well. In nomine Patri, Filii, Spiritus Sancti. Amen.
Exactly.
And that's the way, and you hit the same tones. You know exactly what I know, and because you've been there, you've heard it, you've done it. It's different. People don't. They've dumbed down so much of the mass these days that people don't understand what it is they're missing. Yeah, agreed.
Because it becomes this more corporeal reality. You're connected to this higher resonance, and everybody's
it's
in
your
the
own
same
head.
resonance.
When you're singing it, it resonates through your skull, and you hit the om in those chants.
And
so
see, that's also what the Buddhists do. I mean, I was watching 7 Years in Tibet the other day. Ariel actually allowed me to choose the movie, so I chose 7 Years in Tibet.
Right? Good movie.
Why? Because I wanted to teach a message.
Yeah.
Because the guy went in there all completely arrogant and full of himself that he could conquer the biggest height and the biggest peak, and he was the man. And he came out crying to a 7-year-old who told him, "No, I don't consider you my father. I am not your son.
Yeah.
I was a lesson for you to learn. And I thank you for being here, but you need to continue your journey."
Right. Right. And they did that if you watched Stargate SG-1, the TV series that was spawned from
I remember
Stargate.
that one.
Eventually, when Dr. Jackson was trying to go back after his wife who had gotten taken, they ran into their version of the Dalai Lama, and it was a little boy. Do you remember? And the things that little child said to Daniel and to everyone was just amazing. If the Dalai Lama actually spoke like that, that's the Dali. That's what it's supposed to be like. And when they did that, they did it for a purpose. The same thing. There was a journey that he needed to go on to understand what was happening, even though his wife was taken by a parasite. That was living inside.
That's also that movie about time travel, to where the guy's wife was mugged and she was killed, and he spent years developing a time machine to go back in time to save her from being killed. And every time he went back, she died in a different way. Why? Because if she didn't die, he wouldn't have focused on building the time machine. So it was impossible in his timeline. Exactly. Until he went up and wow, they destroyed the moon. And we're about to do that.
Yeah, almost. Yeah. Yeah. Right. That gets kind of scary when you think about that paradox and where we're going.
And then we think about the Morlocks and the ones that were, the brain stem that went down to here. And then you had the beasts that came up and took the woke people that thought that everything was peaceful. And at night they'd get bad dreams. And all of a sudden, because you're the next one on the menu, motherfucker. That's why you're having bad dreams, bitch.
It was like in the Time Machine, the book that became the movie, and the Morlocks, and the bell would ring or the sirens would go off, and all the pretty people walked inside because they were the food.
Exactly. They were the food.
They were the food.
But they think that everything's peaceful until they get eaten alive.
Well, they redid that movie with Ewan McGregor and what's her name? I can't think of her name right now. I can see her face. Scarlett Johansson, where it was kind of like there was another movie that was similar to that.
That was The Island, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was The Island, and that was just like Logan's Run. It was the same parody.
Where he found out that he was a clone destined to die.
Yeah, that he was
For an
made.
arrogant
The
fucking
organs
rich
could be
guy.
harvested when the real guy needed them. Yeah, and so he
For
was
an
destined
arrogant
to die.
fucking
And
rich
that was-
guy who was a
when you went
drunk
to
and a
the island,
motherfucker.
that was when you got you were actually killed, and whatever the person needed.
Oh
got out.
wow, he got his lottery ticket. Wow, yay! You're
That
dead,
just meant that
motherfucker.
his person
His number was
needed a
called.
kidney or needed a heart or needed some transplant, that he was the
So-
he was the one who was growing it for that person to have, and so his life was
Absolutely.
forfeit. Yeah, and so
Exactly.
that was that whole thing that was the same as
The
Logan's
idea
Run.
of the
And he
island.
went on the run with her.
Yeah, I never
yeah.
watched Logan's Run because I only watched a couple of it, and I was
Yeah,
like
Logan's
bored.
Run. The whole theory of that was the ecosystem only worked with the amount of people that they had. So you had this thing on your hand that was a light. It was a little light bulb, and it was green. When it turned red, that meant that your time was up and that you had to go to renewal. And basically, you were in this arena, and the arena would become weightless, and it would lift you up. And when you got up to the top, the lasers would kill you and just annihilate you, and just and you would explode, and you would die, and that would be the end of you. But everyone believed that they would go to heaven then. They went to renewal. They would be reborn again.
because they
in
had
new
a
body.
certain amount of people that they had to have on a planet.
The
and that was it.
ecosystem only worked with a certain amount of people in there. Yeah.
Absolutely. No,
Yeah.
that's- Logan's Run. I didn't need that. I guess I need to watch that.
It's a good
Um,
movie. And Logan realizes it because they changed. What happens is a religion starts, and the computer wants to understand the religion. And so Logan becomes the sacrificial lamb. He gets he gets accelerated to his 33rd year when he's only 28, because they
Oh.
want him to go on the run to find the religion. He's a Sandman. Sandmen put you to sleep.
Okay.
So their
The
job is to
Sand-
hunt anybody that goes on the run.
Mr.
and kill them.
Sandman.
Right.
Tell me
Give me
your
your
dream.
dreams, right? So
Exactly.
the Sandmen are the people who hunt. So he becomes on the run, Logan's Run, and Logan goes on the run and meets these people who got away, and they're living underground in the maintenance portion of the ecosystem, hiding.
After their green lights turned red.
Yes, and they're breeding and having children. So there's kids that don't have the thing that are living there. So they started,
Oh.
yeah. So they have their
Okay.
own little ecosystem, and they're living
See,
off
that's
of,
what we need to start outside the system.
yeah, and that's the whole dichotomy of that storyline, is explaining that to get outside the system, that was, if you look at that Logan's Run and everything that happened there, it's the Matrix.
Yes.
See?
And it's the reality we're living in today.
And it's the reality we're living in today. So the whole thing was to teach you how to escape the fake reality that everybody was stuck in, that there's a complete world outside
Because
of
that
reality.
reality only
Because-
wants to kill you.
Yes.
The reality that we live in today only
you
wants
dead.
to
Wants
kill
you
you.
alive only to serve, and when your service is done, they want you dead.
No, actually, right now they're getting robots to do everything that we do. So in the end, we are extraneous. We are eaters and breeders, and it is better for us to be
That's
gone.
why they're changing what a woman is to a breeder or a breastfeeder. That's
Yep.
what they're telling
to
people. go.
minimize so that no
To
woman
minimize.
wants to actually be a mother.
Right.
Because, oh my God, no, I don't want to be a breeder.
Right.
You know, I want to be a powerful woman that's in control of everything else, no
Right.
family, no friends, no anything else. But I've
They're
been,
trying to downsize the ecosystem, just like they did in Logan's Run, just like they did in the Matrix. And if you look at the temporal war and you go forward in time to the nefarious side, there's only about 550,000 people on the planet, and they're mostly Borg, kind of like Borg. They're part AI.
mostly bored. They're
That's
probably
that's
all
the whole-
bored.
that's the reality that is the temporal war. And then if you go down the other side, we have a population of 10 billion people living on this planet, and we've solved the problems of renewable food sources and energy sources. And we no longer
Are we
charge.
eating, are we
for it.
eating bugs?
Yeah, right. By doing like Bill Gates is saying, and creating a bacteria and turning it into everything.
Oh, yeah. Soy, which is why he's one of the biggest farmers on the U.S. now, because,
Yep.
a guy who copied computer systems is a great.
Yeah, they had him on CNN with what's his name.
So he's going to be a great farmer, and he's a great doctor too, right?
Yeah.
I remember his medical degree, right?
Yeah.
Bill Gates has a really significant medical degree in medical
Get it out of the
history.
Cracker Jack box. Yeah.
He has none. He
Has
paid
none.
billions of dollars to have influence. Period. The end.
Right. Yeah,
Because he-
yeah. Having a honorary degree is not a degree. Right. All right, brother. I got to run. It's 7
3
o'clock.
hours. You're actually an hour over what you
Right,
said you
I-
were going to do.
Right? I was gonna
But
stop
tonight
at
was a
2 hour
good
mark.
show, and thank you much, brother. I appreciate you.
All right, guys, we'll see you guys. I'll be back on Friday, right, on Orion
I'll be in
Rising.
chat with you.
And I'm sure that Mike will be in the chat, right? So we'll be back live on Friday again.
I might not be on Tuesday. I might be later on Tuesday, or maybe I'll do my show on Thursday because I'm banned on YouTube for a week.
right, right. So who knows when Mike will be back on YouTube? See, that's why I pay StreamYard, because I can stream to 3 places. So if I get banned from YouTube, I just do 3 other places.
I could actually stream to Facebook, but I'm embarrassed to actually put my face out there because
Whatever, right?
I'm too woo woo for my family, to be honest with you.
You know what? No one in my family watches my show, and no one in my family has me on their friends list except for my sister and my nieces. So, like my brother, and there's half of my family that they're like, "Yeah, you talk about some crazy stuff I can't be associated with."
That's on you, buddy.
And I'm like, really? I'm like, wow, that's crazy because I talk about ascending back to the source and becoming spiritual. And my brother's a Christian minister, and I'm like, and you can't handle that? Well, my wife, she has, so your wife has a job that Christianity is not conducive with. I'm like, all right, how's that working out for your ministry?
Christian minister. Yeah, it is what it is.
It's separate. It's separate. She only goes to church on holidays. She doesn't go. My brother goes 3 days a week, and he actually has a course.
Yeah, but they're two different lives. But at the end of the day, he answers. They have two different lives, but at the end of the day, he answers to her.
Agreed.
Because she gives him something that he wants, which is
Right.
physical and no
Right.
longer. Everything else is just a
Which is
detail.
about that big.
and in reality, all his other stuff is just theater because he doesn't really
Right,
believe.
because as a guy, let's be serious. That factors into most people's lives, and you'd be surprised as a man what you'll do for that little patch of wool.
Oh yeah, definitely. But that's another story for another episode.
Was it Chris Rock that said that? Right?
I don't know, but Chris Rock just got the shit slapped out of him by Will Smith.
Brother. Now you have to remember that Chris Rock is one of 9.
Yeah,
Okay?
7. I thought.
Well, the reason I said that 9 because that's what his brother said. There are 8 more of us.
Oh, fuck! All right.
And he says this shit ain't over. He said my brother was passive. We ain't. He said that's how we do it. He said you take on our family, you take on all of us.
Everybody.
Right. He said
so. Will Smith just fought a battle.
Yeah, this
with
shit ain't
9
over.
people.
He just said that the other day. My sister was telling me about it. She said, "I'll send you the video." So yeah, he came out. One of his brothers came out. And
Please send me that video. That would be interesting because it's like, he slapped him down on national television, globally televised, and they're like, "Yo, bitch, fuck you."
And it still didn't do anything for their ratings.
No,
Everyone talked about the show, but no one still watched it. They had less than 11.
The Oscars are dead. 200 million people watch that globally.
Anyway,
it's nothing. It's the lowest ratings ever.
Yeah.
Go take care of your mom. Thank you very much, Leonard. I
Have a great
appreciate
night.
it. Skull Island at Rock tonight. 3
wow.
hours. Holy shit.
Yeah, 3 hours, baby. Look out. All right. Peace out, everybody.
Peace.